And it's Thursday night in East Lansing, Michigan. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Come on in. It's been a few weeks since we've had a Spartan Mag Live, but we've got one rolling tonight. Going to be talking Michigan State spring football. Won't be long, hopefully, before you'll see the scene that's behind me right now. That's a packed Spartan Stadium with Michigan State fans in there getting along, and it's crowded and breathing on each other and no problems. Hopefully we get back to that real soon. Maybe not so much the breathing, but it's going to happen. It's going to be fun. Come on in, gather around, gain a refreshment, get a refreshment. Let me know what you guys are enjoying tonight, whether it's water or something more creative. It's always fun to hear from the Maggers. It's been a long time. It's great to be back with you. I appreciate all the well-wishing at SpartanMag.com, the Underground Bunker message board. Wanting to see another Spartan Mag Live, getting back into a weekly affair here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Talking Michigan State spring football right now as we record this. It is April 15th, about 7, 8, 9 days away from the Michigan State University spring football green-white game at Spartan Stadium. Most likely to be played just in front of family and friends. I don't know if they're going to open that up for the general masses or not. That'd be great if they did, but I kind of doubt it right now. The climate in East Lansing, not so great in that regard. It's guarded. But just a hunch that it's not going to happen this year, unfortunately. We'd love to see the cheerleaders there, the band, the whole thing. Probably not going to happen, but the players are going to be on the field. I think it's a 2 o'clock kickoff, April 24th, broadcast by Big Ten Network, SpartanMag.com with all your coverage. We'll be live tweeting, I assume, from the game. They're going to allow media in, I would assume, like they did for basketball this year. We'll be talking about that. Conan Dyke will be there. We'll have a VCast after the game. Then we'll get back to work at it. Check out we'll go back over the film and watch every play 11 or 12 or 13 times because I'll watch all 22 guys on the field. Not all 22 guys will I watch specifically, but at least 15 of them on the play over and over and over, just looking for anything interesting. And sometimes there are things that are interesting. Not sure what type of game it's going to be, a competitive game up and down the field, keeping score, not sure. I don't anticipate a draft the way D'Antonio used to do it. And D'Antonio didn't do the draft the last 2 or 3 years. But will it be more buttoned down than usual? You know, D'Antonio's green-white games, they weren't quite totally vanilla. It was more French vanilla. Vanilla with maybe some sprinkles. It wasn't, a lot of places really button it down and they don't do anything. And they'll only run about, 20 plays with the ones and twos and call it a day. D'Antonio would show some things. And I always point back to that year before Michigan State played at Notre Dame. Mark Staten was Rochar was one of the coaches for one of the teams, and they came out with that super unbalanced offensive line with a center and a left guard to the left, and then 5 on the line of scrimmage to the right of the center. Just very unbalanced trick formation type of thing. Looked like a spring game wrinkle. Well, geez, Michigan State showed that 5 or 6 times in the first quarter against Notre Dame in game number 2 the following fall. Far from vanilla in that regard. Didn't work against Notre Dame. Didn't work that great in the green-white game either. But D'Antonio would kind of he wouldn't. I'll give you an example. One of the games was decided on a 2-point conversion trick play. Do you remember that? Was it Connor Hayward that threw a pass? Somebody threw a pass. So vanilla at Michigan State? No, not in the past. Now it might be a little bit more of the Saban-esque green-white game, buttoned down, But still, it'll be great to watch some of these guys on the field, especially with the number of new faces in the program, and especially with some of the players that we are familiar with that we need to see more from. So it's going to be great. If you don't know what all this nonsense is about, my name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. SpartanMag.com is the Michigan State website for Rivals.com. SpartanMag.com, been doing it since the beginning of the internet, basically. Having a lot of fun with it. We've accumulated a following of a lot of ne'er-do-wells, some good people, and a little bit of riffraff, but we like that. I'm in that riffraff category, so it's good. And got a lot of loyal followers, and we really appreciate those subscribers. And we'd like for you to become one if you're not one already. Make sure to give us a thumbs up here. Subscribe to the SpartanMag.com YouTube channel. And go check out SpartanMag.com. You can become a subscriber for free for a month. Test drive it. Tell us what you think. I think you'll like it. If you're liking this type of content, you will love SpartanMag.com. Go check it out. We appreciate the people that have posted questions over to the SpartanMag.com message board, the Underground Bunker message board, which is the church of what's happening now with Michigan State sports, the daily narrative on everything associated with Michigan State football, basketball, recruiting. And I've been gone for a couple weeks, had some vacation, had some other things going on that were good, but some off-the-field distractions. Back at it now. And the distractions will come back in the coming weeks, but when we get to the end of May, be ready to go full bore once again, headed toward the 2021 football season. And an off-season of recruiting we expect to be heating up, and basketball recruiting. Maybe some return to normalcy with basketball recruiting. That one's been really strange for the last year and a half, with coaches unable to get out and see recruits live and in person. Football, they're not doing it either, but football has always relied more on film and their camps, but basketball coaches not being able to watch people live. It's been a grab bag. It's been interesting. So go ahead and post some questions over here in the chat area. I'll get to those. And also I will get to the questions that were posted over the Underground Bunker message board. I invited SpartanMag.com subscribers to post questions, and we will answer them here. I think we've got about 12 or 13 questions. I don't think we're taking phone calls today. I don't have that thing hooked up, but we will get back to that at some point in the future. It won't be every single time, but once in a while. Let's go to question number 1. It's very topical regarding some of the news that was being bandied about today on social media, Twitter, and also at the Underground Bunker message board at SpartanMag.com. That about Malik Carr, wide receiver, Purdue University. It was announced, a story that broke from the Rivals.com writer Tom Dienhart, the Purdue writer, formerly of the Sporting News, formerly of Big Ten Network, does a great job with Gold and Black Illustrated, which is the Purdue website for Rivals.com. He broke the story that Malik Carr had entered the transfer portal. Malik Carr, about 6'5" wide receiver, originally from Oak Park, Michigan. A guy that I really liked when he was a recruit coming out of Oak Park. I thought he was outstanding in the camps. And I pushed for him to get a 4th star. Josh Hemholt agreed with me. I didn't have to push for it because Hemholt agreed with me also. But when I really liked the kid and wrote about him a lot, he was a 3-star. And the things that I wrote, I'm like, this guy looks like a 4-star recruit to me. What a 4-star recruit usually looks like. Did I just see? Was that Don Straight 20 in the tip jar with a personal sponsorship for tonight's program? Thank you, Don Straight. And congratulations once again on the Panthers being state champions, just between me and you. Thank you, Don. Really appreciate it. Haven't seen you in a long time. Get back to normal. Maybe we'll cross paths again someday. I see you at Breslin once in a while. See you at the stadium once in a while. See you at Reno's East once in a while. I think I saw you at Go Work Out back in the old days, back when we discussed Will Campbell. Some of those things. Anyway, been a long time supporter of Spartan Magazine, SpartanMag.com. Appreciate your support here as well. Hope you're doing great. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, Malik Carr. So, Dean Hardy got the scoop today that that Malik Carr was entering the transfer portal, and tagged along with that Malik Carr had put a do not bother contacting me, coaches. In other words, he already knew where he was going to go. Dean Hart reported that he was going to go to Michigan State, is going to go to Michigan State for football and basketball. I looked into that a little bit more, talked to some of the people that work at Gold Black at Purdue, and they said that Malik Carr, that's what he told the Purdue coaches, that he was transferring to Michigan State, planned to play football and basketball. So that kind of makes the medicine go down a little more smoothly for Purdue. The Purdue writers and the people I've talked to indicate strongly that Purdue did not want to lose him. They did not want him to go. They liked him quite a bit as a talent. I think he only had 1 reception this year for 15 yards. I've not looked into that a whole lot on what was going on. I've got some questions out to find out a little bit more about him and what went on this season. But, hey, big-time talent. Big-time talent. Can be a monster receiver. You know, sometimes those big receivers take a little bit longer to get acclimated to college. Well, I guess any athlete takes long to get acclimated to college. Plaxico Burress, his first year at Michigan State, got shut down at Oregon, and that was after a year of prep school and sitting out a year. Matt Tran, it took him a while, even though he became Michigan State's all-time leading receiver. So they did not want Malik Carr to leave, and he's leaving. I asked around about it a little bit. I've talked to some other people on the football side that know him pretty well. from the past. They confirmed that they're talking with him right now, and it's a done deal. He's going to Michigan State to be a wide receiver. I talked a little bit about it. I looked around campus from the basketball standpoint, and sorry about this. I don't have a cough button here. If I did, we'd go to commercial right now, but we don't have any commercials. Anyway, I'm not exactly Jim Neighbors when it comes to having a voice. But I will be singing Back Home Again in Indiana in May, the last weekend of May. You guys can come over to the house for that one. So anyway, Malik Carr, as far as basketball goes, I talked to some really good sources over at Michigan State basketball, and although Malik Carr said he's going to Michigan State to play basketball and football, that is still, as far as the basketball thing goes, Michigan State basketball, having from good sources, really was not in the middle of this. And they heard about it today, and it was kind of news to them, based on the people I talked to. Good news, they'll go along with it. But in terms of him playing basketball at Michigan State, it was described to me as, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. In other words, if he ends up at Michigan State and he wants to come out and play basketball, we'll look into that. But I don't think Michigan State was out front recruiting him the way they did, Mateen Cleaves back in 1996 as a two-sport thing. But they know him, they like him. Dwayne Stevens, Malik Carr is his nephew or cousin, one or the other. So they know, they're well aware of him. And a big-time addition to the talent portal, or talent pool. Also out of the portal, Christian Fitzpatrick joining the team from Louisville a couple of weeks ago, also a talented wide receiver. So Michigan State, they lost some receiver talent last year. But Carr and Fitzpatrick are a couple of guys that I happen to really like coming out of high school. I don't jump on the bandwagon a lot with recruits, especially guys that don't have a Michigan State offer. Once in a great while, I'll be like, man, that's an in-state guy that's excellent. He's going to do well somewhere. It's not fitting in Michigan State's plans for whatever reason. Those were two guys, Fitzpatrick and Carr, to the point that I tweeted at him. I'm like, man, you guys just keep individually. I said, just keep doing what you're doing. You look good to me. You'll have great opportunities elsewhere, wherever it is. I don't try to be like Michigan State flag waver with recruits. I talk to a recruit once or twice, and almost immediately I start rooting for the kid as a human being and hoping that he makes a good decision for himself and has a great career and makes $1 million. Unless the kid is someone I'm not really impressed with as a person, which rarely happens. I'm almost always impressed with these guys. Hardworking guys that have a dream and they get excited when they go to a camp and they start to get some recruits coming after them. Sometimes they're excited to be interviewed, and it shows, and it's great, and that never gets old for me. And those were two guys that I thought were really good, and I'd say, hey, what's going on with Michigan State? And you could see it in their eyes. They were like, I don't know, man. I like Michigan State, but I haven't been hearing from them. And I'm like, hey, it's cool. You're going to have great opportunities. Just keep doing what you're doing. What are you going to tell a kid? That's what I told them. I believed it. And had a good rapport with those guys. Was able to get back with Fitzpatrick after he committed to Michigan State as a transfer a week and a half ago, just at the beginning of my vacation. Got those quotes, sent them to Paul Konerdijk. Konerdijk wrote that story a week and a half ago. Fitzpatrick, a guy with some talent. And also Malik Carr, a guy with some talent. Now here's Malik Carr, a long pass that he had, a long reception. This one was called back. He was a senior. This was against West Bloomfield High School, a very good West Bloomfield High School team. This was from Athlazon. Got it from their website. Check them out. Athlazon does a great job with highlights of high school recruits, especially in the state of Michigan. So I'm using their video, but please check their stuff out. So this one was called back, but you'll see some of the speed. Now, he's got size and strength, but here you're going to see, no problem with the stride there. Nice, smooth stride, breaking away from a lot of talented players. There must have been a bust, obviously. In the catch, he's all alone, so he makes the catch no big deal in terms of the hands. But I've seen him at camps. He's big. He's got the catch radius. He has good hands, catches it away from his body, which is something that Benny Fowler didn't do at that age. I liked his ability to get in and out in routes, coming back to the ball or snapping off a square out at a 90-degree angle, doing some good things there. Plays with tenacity, has size, all those things. The only thing I wasn't sure about in the camps was, what was his 40-yard dash time? I never saw what it was, not sure. But on this one, you can see speed. He's moving pretty well. He moves nicely. That was a 91-yard touchdown pass that was called back. But look how big the dude is. I'm not saying 14 is huge, but 5 is a big dude that can be like a monster-type receiver. Now, this is video that I shot back in the summer of 2018 at the Best of the Midwest camp at Grand Valley State. Now this is the T-shirt camp, and it's only one play, but you get an idea of his competitiveness and tenacity. Now watch this, Malik. Now Malik gave the guy that he was wrestling with back there, 91. You know, he gave him a handshake and a pat on the rear here, right here. That was the guy he was competing against. So I mean, I just like that all the way around. Makes a play, makes a one-handed grab, and that's a different one. He's going up, talking about the catch radius here. Is that the same dude he's going against? All right, watch him break from the line of scrimmage. You know, he picks up ground quickly. Now, I know this is before his senior year in high school, but you can see what I liked about him. Gets held a little bit. You don't really see the route running there, but leaps. And I can't see if he extended his hands on that or not. But, or what's this one? Accelerate through the catch, I think. Got tripped up there a little bit on the hesitate and go. There's the catch radius. You can watch a lot of T-shirt camps, and this guy was, you know, and you might not see that many plays in short order the way he was doing that particular day. Again, catching the ball away from his body, which is the way coaches try to teach it. 89's trying to lock him up, but matching strength with him is always going to be difficult. Again, this is before his senior year. All right, makes a little nod and makes a cut here, and doesn't really come apart. Nod that way. Foot in the ground. Breaks it off. Hands away from his body. He's having fun. All right. Where are we at? Malik Carr. That's T-shirt camp stuff, high school stuff. That's what a 4-star looks like, in my opinion. And Michigan State didn't really recruit him hotly in high school. I heard there were some reasons. I think maybe they got the wrong idea on a few things. Tried to circle back and go after him later, but it was a little too late. And nice talent. On that one play when he's wrestling for the ball with the guy, he's just a tenacious competitor, right? Makes the play. I think was that the one-handed grab? Goes to the ground, the little corner, trying to get the ball from him, and Malik's not going to give up. Wrestle. But it was clean. It was tenacious, but it was clean. Got up, went at it for a long time. You know, sometimes those T-shirt camps, there will be some pushing and shoving and some bravado and some woofing and stuff like that. He was just competing through the whistle long after the whistle. Probably should have been broken up earlier, but those two guys kept going at it, but got up good-natured about it. I think that's great. I think that's perfect. A guy that's tough as heck between the lines, but has the discipline, and just, you know, you like to see guys get a little bit nasty, a little bit, but I thought that was just wonderful. And hearing that, it's, of course, the Purdue people broke that he was going to go to Michigan State. I asked around campus a little bit, and some sources that I have that are close to his family, as a matter of fact, talking to his mother, say it's a done deal. Now, I've not spoken with Malik yet. I don't know if it's official. I don't know when. It doesn't really become official until the guy enrolls when it comes to portals and recruiting. But we'll be trying to reach out to him. I'm not sure if he will talk about it or not. Some guys did, like Fitzpatrick did. And I'm hoping Malik will talk a little bit. I'm sure he's pretty excited. I'm happy for him because he always wanted to be a Michigan State guy. As far as basketball goes, people are going to be wondering, well, what kind of basketball player is he? Hey, he played for the family in the EYBL, was a good, solid AAU basketball player at 6'5". The thing about football players that want to play basketball, it's very hard to do. Deion Sims wanted to do it. Trandon did it. Going all the way back to Lorenzo Guess, Andre Rison, some guys have done it. But it's hard to do. Is he a power forward or is he a skilled wing? It's really hard, in my opinion, for a skilled wing or a guard to make the transition from football to basketball at midseason. It's easier for a role-playing four, a guy that's a role man, or a role player at the four. maybe the 5. Trannon played some 5. He was 6'6", but he was a long 6'6". But these days, your power forward really needs to be a shooter. It's the day of the stretch 4. When Trannon played it at Michigan State, Michigan State loves to have a stretch 4, but he was just trying to provide some fouls inside because Michigan State had Paul Davis and not much else in 06. Trannon was a big part of it in 05, played some good defense on some people. And was Trannon... Trannon was an important part of that that Final Four run. Anyway, in 05. But they weren't asking Trannon to come off screens and hit jump shots at 17 feet. You're not going to get shooting out of a player, whether it be Keon Coleman or Malik Carr. Because shooting, it's such a refined talent that takes reps and reps and reps and reps and reps to be able to do it efficiently at a standard that's expected with Michigan State basketball or Big Ten basketball in general. Really hard to do. But if you're just going to be a Matt Trannon guy, you're going to need some size, like 6'6". Just run up and down, play some defense, battle. There's a use for that. Julius Peppers played some power forward for North Carolina. Again, that was before the stretch 4 era. At 6'5", is Carr a guy that can play some wing, face up? I don't know. You need to have that skill. If you're a wing and you can't shoot, then you're compromising the entire offensive system. You can sag, because then the defense can sag off of a non-shooting wing, and it creates problems. In my opinion, when you talk about people that athletes that we all remember, like Aaron Alexander played basketball at Michigan State for a few weeks, the former wide receiver in the John L. Smith era, never really got on the court. Sometimes those guys are useful as practice players. I don't think Michigan State has a shortage of practice players for basketball. But basically, if I was going to talk about a football player of some repute, of some fame that also played some basketball, not a Michigan State guy, but you remember Ty Streets, who's a wide receiver at Michigan, played some basketball at Michigan. Didn't do great things in basketball at Michigan. When he checked into a game, people went nuts. They loved him as an athlete and all that. But he's the same type of guy. A big wide receiver, a face, but a 3, a perimeter player. And it's just hard to get skill from those guys when they're only playing basketball 2 months out of the year. And Ty Streets really didn't have much of an impact in basketball because it's very, very hard to do. If it's going to be an impact player playing both sports, in my opinion, it needs to be a four-man. Can this guy be a four-man? And that goes for Keon Coleman, too. I know he scored 63 against small school competition in Louisiana, but my expectation is kind of that Ty Streets type of, at best. That's all I would expect there. I think he's a football guy, and he's a wide receiver. Now, he's big enough and thick enough, some people might look at him to help at tight end. Michigan State needs help at tight end. Michigan State moved Ian Stewart from wide receiver to tight end. Purdue wanted to keep him as a wide receiver. He would do anything from what I understand, although the Purdue writers tell me that he's not going to want to play tight end, but people that are close to his family are saying he'll do either. I suspect he will do enough at wide receiver to latch on there at wide receiver. And they've got some talent at wide receiver now, too. So it's going to be a competition. So Michigan State loses Morgan, the big wide receiver that had the touchdown and reception against Penn State. They add Fitzpatrick and Carr. And those guys are similar. Fitzpatrick not as big, but it's just strange. That's football these days. You lose one, you get 2. And talent going in, talent coming out. I liked Morgan a lot, but Carr is a nice addition for sure. Let me go ahead and start answering some questions here that are live. In the meantime, I want to get the link here, tweet it out, bring in some more of the riffraff. So we always appreciate that. If you're just joining us, make sure to don't be a stranger at Spartan. Feedback. It's like Woodstock all of a sudden. My bad. I've been known to commit errors. It happens. I tweeted that out. So anyway, SpartanMag.com. Go check us out. Always glad to get new subscribers. If you're a former subscriber, come back. Come on back. If you'd like to get you committed again, SpartanMag.com. Let me go over here to the comments area. Andrew Stevens checking in first. Rob South, John G., Amy Garland, also known as Tyrone Garland, and Mr. Bone Man. That's the starting 5. Got Tyrone Garland at the 4. Rob South running the point. John G, smooth John G on the wing. Stevens at the other wing. Mr. Bone Man inside at 6'9". All right. Rob South says, "What's up, fellas?" Ty Garland says, "Been a while, Jim." Ty Garland checking in. Good to see Ty Garland. And Ty Garland and I played a little phone tag back a few months ago around football season. Might need to look back into that again. Like to get him involved in different ways for sure. Be great to hear from him. Mr. Hockey Wings 40 GGG says, now wait a minute, Mike Boverhoff. Mike Boverhoff, ladies and gentlemen. Boverhoff coming in strong. Super chat from Mike Boverhoff. That's Mike Bov. He says, "Appreciate what you do, Comp. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that a lot." And Don Straight said, "Great product, Jim. Good to have you back." Now, if you do super chat like that, and I appreciate the generosity, the $20 personal sponsorships. Really appreciate that. It doesn't have to be 20. Hey, I'm just a bartender here. I will whatever. We appreciate anything. Tip jar. It's great. But anyway, really appreciate that. And if you do the super chat and you have a question in it, then your question will go as soon as I notice it. What do we have here? Mr. Bowman saying it's been a long time. Yes, it has. Matthew Bobe, or is it Bobby? I'm not sure. Matthew Bobe says, "How close is the battle between Russo and Thorne as of right now?" I'm going to get into some spring football now. Also, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Russo and Thorne. Yes, it's a tight battle. And they're both looking good, from what I understand. You see some of the video here and there, and you heard what Mel Tucker said also. He likes these guys. A lot of good ability. Russo with a lot of experience, a lot of physical maturity. He's excited to be part of Michigan State. I was on Tim Stout's show earlier today, and we were talking about it. Something about Russo is that, he put up some big numbers at Temple. Also had some interceptions. And they're trying to refine that and have him be a little more particular in his choices. And, Russo talked about that last week, as did Jay Johnson, offensive coordinator. And I made the comparison. He's not a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins, when he was a younger quarterback, had a little bit of an interception proclivity also. Cousins would try to go into Superman mode a little bit. When Michigan State got down by 10 early in the fourth quarter, then he had to make a play, and he would try to throw it through a wall to make a play, and that's when interceptions sometimes would happen. Earlier in his career. Cousins got away from that later and wasn't playing from behind as much later in his career, which has a big impact on interception numbers. Now, Russo's a strong guy that can make a lot of throws. He's a legit NFL prospect. A big season, and he will be on some lists. Right now, the quarterback talent pool for the draft next year is not great. Now, that could change. I mean, nobody knew who the kid at LSU was 2 years ago. People knew who he was. No one knew he could do that. So new guys can come in, have a big year, and go to the NFL. But as of right now, next year's quarterback class, not real thick. So he's positioned that if he has a pretty good season, something could happen, and those are his intentions. But the deal with Russo is, and you can see it when you see some of the videos Michigan State released. They released a video, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. They were doing a photo shoot of players in their uniforms, especially some of the new players. So they had all the cameras up and the white screens and the lighting and everything. And he was in a Michigan State uniform for the first time. He got to see his number and his name on the back. And he looked at it, and it was like an 8-year-old boy on Christmas morning looking at his favorite gift. He was looking at that jersey, and you could just see the satisfaction and excitement. Yeah, he played at Temple, did some good things, and nothing against Temple. But a quarterback like that, or any athlete, they want to play. They want to drive the big rig. They want the keys to the big rig. Michigan State is a big rig. He's going to be driving the big rig. He's got a chance to in a big conference on the big stage, the Big Ten, right? Russo's excited about it, and it's my understanding he's being well received by his teammates, the receivers, and other guys in the quarterback room, and it's going good. You watch the body language of Peyton Thorne. He's done some good things in these highlights too, and Mel Tucker, there's a question that we will get to. Mel Tucker's had some good things to say about Thorne. Interestingly, Konendijk and I talked about this throughout last season. Whenever Mel Tucker was asked about Peyton Thorne, he never really expanded about what he liked about him. He was more likely to expand about Rocky Lombardi and the leader that he was. But with Thorne, the comments were always very guarded and very short. He wasn't critical, but if you threw him a softball question, hey, how's Peyton Thorne doing? He'd say, he's doing okay, or whatever. He wouldn't expand on it, which was very interesting for a long time. This spring, last week, Tucker did expand more on Thorne. Maybe it was just a coincidence those times when he wasn't really saying a whole lot. Konondyke thought that when Michigan State went out and got Russo, that is what spoke volumes. They were looking to, recruit over Thorne's head a little bit. I wasn't so sure. It's Konondyke's opinion. I'm not going to argue with him. He might be right. I'm not sure. But now this spring, Tucker's saying some good things about Thorne. Excited about him. And Thorne, like I said on the Stout Show today, Thorne comes from a coach's family, and coaches are different. Coaches don't expect immediate success all the time. They don't expect immediate fame all the time. Thorne, to me, is not one of these quarterback divas, quarterback prima donnas that expect to start and be a Heisman finalist at the age of 18. He's a guy that originally committed to Western Michigan, decommitted, ended up at Michigan State. But, waited his turn, got a chance to start, and I thought he was solid as a reliever, and then I thought he was solid against Penn State. But, point is, if he doesn't start this year, I don't see him retreating to a corner, sucking his thumb, and crying about it. Like I said, he's from a coach's family. I think he would just go to work. And, I was talking to somebody today, our friend Crowley Sullivan, who we'll be hearing more from in the future. He made a good point that Thorne might even, Thorne, he's an athlete, and he wants to start and have all that on his lap. But also, if he doesn't start, that's another year to develop, and he'll have a COVID year. Right now, he's a COVID redshirt freshman again, Thorne is, if he wants to stay that long in college. So, not a bad place to be in. But, yeah, it's a competition. I've not been able to watch practice, so I don't know who has the edge. But on a lot of things that we've seen and heard, both guys are making progress, and there's no disappointment with either of them right now. Interesting situation. All right, let me go back to the SpartanMag.com Underground Bunker message board questions. Let's go to question number 2. Question from A Guys is his name. From Boyne City. He says, glad you're back from a well-deserved vacation. What's your gut feeling on Duffy? Duffy, talking about A.J. Duffy. He's a quarterback from Bradenton IMG Academy in Florida, 6'2", He's originally from Rancho Verde in Southern California. A.J. Duffy is ranked the number 6 pro-style quarterback in the country, the number 76 overall player in the country. He's a legit 4-star quarterback prospect. If Michigan State were to get him, he'd be the highest-ranked quarterback they've had, I'd say, just since Jeff Smoker. Noah Sprunger, our new extraordinarily talented intern at SpartanMag.com, had that comment. Or was it Kenny Jordan? Or was it Jason Killip? One of those guys. They're all real good. I think it was Sprunger, though, was saying that he would be the highest-ranked quarterback Michigan State has had since Jeff Smoker. Michigan State's had, I think, one 4-star quarterback since Smoker, and that was Brian Lewerke, but he was not a national top 250 guy. Certainly not a national top 100 guy. A.J. Duffy is a top 100. 6'2", talented arm. I've not seen him play live. I've only seen some of his highlights, so I can't give you a breakdown of him. But in terms of his recruitment, I just got a text from Noah Sprunger, as a matter of fact, but I'll look at it later. Does a great job. Check him out at SpartanMag.com. His recruitment, A.J. Duffy, he listed Michigan State, Penn State, Oregon, Florida State as his top 4, his final 4. That was back on February 13th. At that time, there was still some feeling that Arizona State could sneak in and troll him out of there. He was regarded as an Arizona State leader, or lean, prior to that announcement way back on February 13th. But, Arizona State has continued to talk to him. He has visited Michigan State, Oregon, Florida State, and Penn State. He was planning to make a decision on March 31st, and then he delayed it, which a lot of people, including myself, thought was a good thing for Michigan State, because Michigan State was in there, but there were no indications that Michigan State was the leader. There were no indications that he was close to committing to Michigan State. If I were to write a recruiting headline for A.J. Duffy's recruitment on March 30, whatever date it was when he announced that he would not be making that decision like he planned on March 31st, he was going to extend it into April, my headline would have been, Michigan State extends A.J. Duffy recruitment into overtime. Michigan State forces overtime in this recruitment. Not sure they're going to win, but Michigan State, other schools too to an extent, but I think Michigan State specifically has had a hand in forcing overtime in this recruitment. And that's a good thing for Michigan State recruiting. You know, Michigan State, with their staff, they've been recruiting him in the past. They like him. They've been recruiting him hard, top to bottom throughout the staff. They've made him a priority, and they're in it. And today at SpartanMag.com, Adam Gorney, who's the lead recruiting writer for Rivals.com, he reported today and posted on the Underground Bunker message board that A.J. Duffy, when he visits Michigan State, he will be accompanied by his mother and his father. And that's serious. That's not a guy just taking a trip to take a trip. And in this climate, you don't take official visits just to take official visits because they're not as fun as they used to be, right? He's going to check out Michigan State, and he's bringing mom and dad with him. And if it happens in June, by that time, if everything settles down, we're able to get out a little bit more, he will see Michigan State in June as a very attractive jewel, in my opinion. He'll be coming from Florida. I mean, he's a Sun Belt guy, but Florida in June can get pretty oppressive with the heat. He's a Southern California guy. He can handle more. He can handle that. But when you go to Michigan in June, especially East Lansing, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. And I think I don't know. I've never thought that Michigan State was going to get him, but it just remains interesting. Michigan State just keeps extending the battle. Florida State has consistently been characterized as being the slight leader, and Gorney reported that he's been told that Florida State has a slight edge. And Florida State, there's a lot of news coming out of there. They just got funding for their new standalone football facility, and I'm sure they're excited about that. Well, Michigan State's got the same type of stuff going on right now, so Michigan State can match that trump card. Florida State is announcing, the new use to help players with their name, image, and likeness. Michigan State's had that program underway for a few months also. Unable to put it into practice yet, but Michigan State is going to be able to go tit for tat with those things. When he comes to Michigan State and he's able to meet Mel Tucker face-to-face and the staff members, that's where I think Michigan State can be really strong. I know Norvell's going to be strong at Florida State too, and Mel Tucker will resonate with some players more than others, but that's the part of the Michigan State. They haven't even gotten the boat in the water yet when it comes to being able to go face-to-face with recruits, which I think is going to be a strength of Mel Tucker. Provided they can do it soon and not after next season. If next season is a shaky season, which I'm not sure it will be, but I've said it for a long time that Mel Tucker can be a dynamic recruiter with his staff, but if you're just trying to get going, it's easier to recruit when you're 0-0 than later on, and they've been forced to keep the horse in the barn. They've been forced to keep the lion in the cage. They've not been able to let the lion out of the cage recruiting-wise. With Duffy, they'll get a chance to see him. There'll be some others. They've got other official visits that are starting to come in for the month of June. And I think recruiting will take an interesting turn at that point. I'm not guaranteeing that there's going to be an avalanche of commitments. I'm not promising that. I'm just saying it'll be easier to form those relationships and finish. And this is what's going to happen. I'm not sure it's going to happen with Duffy. I don't know who it's going to happen with. But I've covered recruiting long enough, and you've watched recruiting long enough. This is what often happens. Recruits go to visit Michigan State for the first time, especially historically recruits from Ohio. And it doesn't have to just be kids from Ohio, but these are the ones that it happens with frequently. They hear about Michigan State. It's like, okay, I'll go visit Michigan State. And they get there, and they're like, holy crap, this place is great. You know what I'm talking about. You've been to East Lansing. You went to Michigan State, a lot of you. Michigan State's a darn fine place. Sometimes more fine than people expect when they visit it. And that's going to happen. recruits are going to come in considering Michigan State. Michigan State's going to be on their radar. And they will visit and they'll see it. And the staff is going to hit them with all of their flowers and red carpet and everything. They'll come in considering Michigan State. And they're going to leave with Michigan State as the leader. That's what's going to happen a lot. It's happened in the past. I think it's going to be even more pronounced now. I think Tucker is that good a salesman. I think his staff is that energetic and dynamic. And they've got the new building to sell. And they've just got, a real modern take on a lot of things. And I think that's going to resonate with recruits. Just got to get them on campus. It's late again. You would have liked for these guys, if they come and visit in June or for a spring game, you would like for that to be their second or third visit. You'd like their first visit to be during a basketball game in the winter. And I know other programs are under the same restrictions, unable to have visitors. But those programs are established. A lot of the ones that Michigan State's recruiting against. Michigan State is still trying to get established. So if you're not established, it's even more incumbent upon you to have recruits on campus so you can really pitch your deal as you're building it. Michigan State's not been able to do that. They've recruited pretty solidly despite that, but once they're able to get the boat in the water, we'll see. And Duffy, I don't know, man. He comes here with his parents, and it's June. All bets are off, in my opinion. I don't doubt for a minute that Florida State is the leader right now, but there's a reason it's gone into overtime, and there's a reason he's going to visit Michigan State. Read between the lines. That says to me that he's not 100% sure about Florida State. Am I wrong? Am I right? We'll see. The other, it's a big deal for Michigan State to go out and get a four-star top quarterback. But, a commitment these days is, I hate to say this, but it's not the commitment it used to be. Somebody can commit to your school and like, okay, 18 months, I'll just transfer out, no big deal. Yeah, I'll take a chance with Michigan State. If it doesn't work out, I'll look elsewhere. Does that help a school like a Michigan State that's like a fringe top 25 program? Maybe so. Maybe it would be harder for Michigan State to beat out some other schools at this stage if a commitment to your school were more of a commitment. Would it be a safer pick for him to go ahead and go to Penn State, commit to Oregon because they're more established programs? Or would he go to Michigan State on a little bit of a flyer, knowing that he can get out or eat more easily? I don't know. I'm not a proponent of guys cutting and running, but that's the way it's going to be these days. Anyway, that A.J. Duffy thing, I got to say, when Michigan State was in on him, I'm like, okay, that's interesting, but, probably not going to be a Spartan. I'm not saying that anymore. There's work to do there, but Michigan State has forced overtime. Question number 3. We are already an hour into this thing, and I'm only on question number 3. Gonna have to shorten the bench here a little bit. All right, this is from WX Spartan from the banks of the Saginaw River, and he says, "Welcome back to the hardest working guy around Michigan State athletics coverage." Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. The late great Terry Cabell used to say that about me back in 1997. He wrote for the Detroit News. I'd walk in, interview to the press room or something, and Cabell would be like, "The hardest working man in journalism, Jim Comparoni." Took that as a compliment back then. Not saying I'm the best. And I work hard, but I still don't feel like I'm producing as much as I'd like to. Now, sometimes the work that's put in is watching film to try to get some semblance of an idea of what's going on. For instance, on the basketball message board a couple of days ago, I got back from vacation and I watched the Rogers kid from Grand Blanc in the Division I Michigan High School Association State Championship game just to get a look at him, and also R.J. Taylor, the sophomore point guard at Grand Blanc, and also Pierre Brooks and his state championship game for Detroit Douglas in Division IV. I needed to see it. A lot of you that are fans watched it, and I was out of the state when that was being played, but I need to get back and watch that. A lot of you guys did, but sometimes watching things is an important part of the job that doesn't produce anything that particular night other than a couple of posts on the message board. But sometimes I feel like I'm accumulating information, but I'm not putting out as much content as I'd like to. But Conan Dyke's done a great job with spring football coverage at SpartanMag.com. Recruiting coverage, Kenny Jordan, Jason Killip, and Noah Sprunger. I'll be helping them in that regard more, especially as we get into late May. But there's a part of me that I just like to be doing more. Sometimes I wish there wasn't 24 hours in a day. I wish there was 34 hours. And I wish I'd never had to sleep. And I'd work a lot more. I work a lot as it is, but I'd work more. I'd also get out and do some leisurely things too a little bit. But there's times when I'm tired. I'm like, man, I wish I wasn't tired. I want to work more. I want to get something done. There's an article I got to get about a recruit from Illinois. I want to get done tonight. We'll see. Anyway, WX Spartan says, have you ever seen the backfield this crowded? The running backfield at Michigan State. Walker, Collins, Simmons, Joyner, and can't forget about Hayward. You mentioned you've heard good things about Eaglin. Seems very difficult to manage, he says. Lots of talent, but someone will be unhappy. That's from WX Spartan from the banks of the Saginaw River. Yeah, you just listed 6 guys. And then, of course, Anthony Williams left. So he was one that was squeezed out. And Brandon Wright moved to defensive end. And that's an interesting experiment. Hearing some good things about Brandon Wright and his speed, but he's just getting started there at defensive end, just starting. And we've seen athletes move over to defensive end in the past, and there's some guys who might have the horsepower or athleticism that could give them a chance to be a defensive end, but it never quite totally works out. Thinking about remember Ivory McCoy was a guy. And also, as far as running backs goes, Davion Prim will be coming in also, but out of Oak Park. But he didn't, he didn't have a great senior year. We'll see what becomes of him, but it's a crowded room. Ivory McCoy tried some defensive end, and Kellen Freeman Davis, was a tight end, an NFL tight end that played a little bit of defensive end. I think at the beginning of the D'Antonio era, right? Did a couple things, but it's hard to make that transition. Brandon Wright is trying it. As far as these running backs go, yes, I would agree. It's very difficult to manage. Someone will be unhappy. Have I ever seen a backfield this crowded? 6 is a lot. I remember back, was the John L. Smith era when they had a lot of running backs. Jason Teague was one of them, was like a throw-in that ended up being a very productive running back. He came from like 5th string to be a good 600-yard guy, I think. There have been times when there have been a lot of bodies, but sometimes if you have a lot of bodies at running back and you don't have one big feature back, that means you don't have one big feature back. Does Michigan State have a feature back? I think, Kenneth Walker's looked good in spring practice so far. He's been a feature back for Wake Forest. Elijah Collins had a good redshirt freshman season for Michigan State in 2019 with over 900 yards rushing. Last year, unproductive, which was a big surprise. Mel Tucker with some interesting comments about Elijah Collins earlier this week, saying that he's put on some weight, he's focused. His quote, Tucker said that he likes the way Elijah Collins is trending, unquote. Positive quote. Said Elijah knows his best football is in front of him. It's a positive quote. So Tucker's believing in Collins. Those are things he wasn't saying about him last year. And, last year we saw Collins when he got on the field. Sometimes he didn't have great blocking, but what we do know is he rarely was productive. I think he had 1 or 2 productive carries like all year. But we know he's been able to do it before. But we had heard that the mediocre version of Collins that we saw last fall is the same Collins that the coaches saw in practice. I remember the first game of the year against Rutgers. All of a sudden, Connor Hayward is starting instead of Collins. And a lot of people were like, what are these coaches thinking? Don't they know that Elijah Collins is the best running back on the team? Well, he was based on 2019, but not 2020. He just wasn't. And that's a good, I'm not saying Hayward was great, but through the course of the season, we saw Collins get some chances and some opportunities, and it wasn't that great. And that's what fans and media need to remember and realize, that we are not in practice. We don't see what coaches are seeing. And even though we can think of Elijah Collins as a 900-yard rusher, if he's not on the field, probably a pretty good reason why, because the coaches are going to want to win. And it wasn't a discipline problem. I don't know if his body just wasn't right or what, but he's had a better spring thus far this year. So Collins is in there. Walker's good. Those 2 are good. Simmons, sophomore out of Georgia, did some good things at times last year. He's in there. So now you have Hayward. Hayward's never been a game breaker, never been a guy that would make a defense worry. Decent receiver on third down. Sure, maybe you shorten his role and he can be productive in that regard. But in my opinion, if Hayward is playing in front of Simmons and Collins, again, we're not in the practice field. I don't want to contradict what I just said, but we've got a pretty good idea of what Hayward is. And he's solid, but if he's beating out Collins and Simmons, that doesn't say great things about Collins and Simmons. We know what Hayward is. I think if you're a Michigan State fan, you kind of want those other guys to outproduce him. Hayward's doing a good job of leading, I understand. Bless his heart, good guy, nothing against him. Just my opinion right now. Joyner coming in from Auburn. Big guy, speed, strong. Needs to prove that he'll play through contact and be a physical player. Sometimes guys that look big, smooth, and strong are just not great running backs. Didn't get on the field much for Auburn. Had a couple plays here and there. They've got a lot of talent at running back. They always have. So I'm not going to count him out, but he's not in here yet. But Walker, Collins, and Simmons, I think, are the guys right now. Eaglin, I'm telling you, yeah, I did hear some good things about Eaglin, and we saw him on the video that was released this week. Strong dude. Was he 225? He's still around. A lot of players have been escorted to the portal, and they've got an abundance of running backs. Anthony Williams went to the portal. Eaglin was not taken to the portal. Eaglin's still around. Tucker said there's going to be some more players that leave, which means there's going to be some more players that are asked to leave. That's the way it is these days. Eaglin might be one of them. I don't know. But I heard he's looking good in practice. These other guys looking good too. But Eaglin is not a duck out of water. He belongs. I don't know if he's going to be a guy that really makes an impact here, but he's a D1 running back is what I hear. Let me see if I got some film. You guys saw the film from this is the film from the first scrimmage. Michigan State released some of this. That's Beasley right there doing a good job back as a sixth-year defensive end. Now look at Snow there, 23. Does that guy look like a Snow or not? Does that guy look like a Snow? Wearing number 23? Is that what Eric Snow used to look like? Darn straight. And Snow, I heard, had a pretty good practice last weekend. And there's Kenneth Walker. Look at the arms on that dude. That's a running back. Number 9, Kenneth Walker from Wake Forest. There's Peyton Thorne. The thing about Thorne is the body language. Okay? Consistently, when you watch some of these videos, he's not a guy, like I said, that's going to go off the corner, suck his thumb, and mope. He's good. He's solid. He's getting better. And he's competing. And sunshine and daffodils. Matt Allen back in it. Wanted to come back, wants to be part of it. Was not happy with the way his season ended last year. With the injury, playing a half a game against Rutgers. He's not been an all-star guy like his brothers. But he's been all that he can be, and he's back. He's competing with Samac, for that starting job. So who was that 77 we just saw? I got to look him up. 77. Who's 77? Ethan Boyd. Okay, no wonder I didn't recognize his number. True freshman from East Lansing. Ron Burton. Okay, now people are looking at this with Hayward getting out and making a play, and people are like, well, what's going on with the defense if Hayward is out there outrunning these guys? And what's going on with the defense, if I can find my notes here? You get into some of the people that are out there on the field, like 22 is Justin White. 20, there's guys like Zach Denha, number 32 defensive back, 6'8", freshman, sophomore from Stony Creek, walk-on from Rochester. Sam Edwards, walk-on linebacker from Lansing Catholic. 28 is Tate Halleck. So, yeah, there are plays that are being broken against second-string defensive players that are actually third-string talents. In the scrimmage, a lot of times it's ones versus twos, ones on offense against second-string defense, first-string defense against second-string offense, and then at the end of the scrimmage, they'll go ones versus ones, which is exactly the way Saban used to do it at Michigan State back in the 1990s, and I guess he still does it that way at Alabama, and Tucker does it this way. So Michigan State does not have much of a first-string back seven on defense, so you can imagine what the back seven on defense on the second string looks like, and it looks like these guys right here. Nothing against Halleck, but 22 and 32 are not maybe guys that you're going to see on the field a lot in the fall. Maybe special teams, I don't know. Justin White is the guy who was like a good kickoff returner from Colorado Mesa was a transfer, 5'9", 170, Agora Hills, California. He's a 5'9" corner, playing some defense on that particular play. And who was the other guy? Hope you guys don't mind me slowing this down, but it's just us talking, right? Just a fireside chat here in mid-April on a cold. Today was a colder day in East Lansing than it had been last week. So 22 is the 5'9" transfer, kick return type of guy. Then you have Halleck. And 32 is Zach Denha, 6 feet 180, redshirt freshman, Rochester Hills, Stony Creek High School. So, Connor Hayward is not exactly Keith Byers, and those guys are not exactly Curtis Drummond, but whatever. All right, so here you got Elijah Collins. I rewound a little too far. So here's Collins. You got Duplain at guard. 22 coming in to make the hit. That's Justin White. Again, first-string offense versus second-string defense. On offense, you see Jarvis back there. So that's ones versus twos. Jarvis playing some tackle. Also, you've got, on some of these plays, that's the touchdown run. Is that the touchdown run? Yeah, that's a little short yardage touchdown run. You got Duplain at left guard, Curry at left tackle, Jarvis at right guard. I don't know if he's a guard or tackle on that one, but you have Tyler Hunt at tight end. Got Thorne at quarterback. You have Jaden Reed out there at wide receiver. And also you'll see 81 out there, Parks Gissinger. A guy that did not play at all last year. Got on the field a little bit against Wake Forest in New York City in the Pinstripe Bowl. Did not see him at all last year. Did not dress. But here he shows up with the ones a little bit. Let's see if I can find him in here. See, there's Hunt. Is there 81? Yeah, 81 was on the ground. Anyway, Elijah Collins has put on some weight. I guess it's good weight. Gets a short yardage touchdown. Am I boring you guys with this? I don't care. I'd do this if no one was watching. I do care if you're listening. Kapilovic, hearing good things about him as a coach. He's got some Schwarzkopf in him. Schwarzkopf. You guys remember General Schwarzkopf? He's got some of that in him. Loud guy on the practice field. That's what you want from an offensive line coach. That's what you want. Excuse me while I look up some of these guys. I forget. Okay, 59 is Samac. I forgot. Sometimes it's been so long. I'm looking at that building, that indoor football building. I've not been in that thing since December of 2019, since we were interviewing players prior to the Wake Forest game. For obvious reasons, they don't let us in for interviews. I'm not complaining. But I see that because, to me, that's a place of work for me. I'm in there 30, 40, 50 times, 55, 50 days a year. And it's been so long since I've been in there. It's kind of surreal. It kind of takes me back a little bit. All right, here's Russo. What's he got on this one? At the touchdown says, is that Lockett? Or was that Xavier Henderson? That was Lockett. That was Terry Lockett. So that's a touchdown. Going deep, Cade McDonald. Walk-on wide receiver, one-handed grab. It's Angelo Gross at the scene of the crime. I think Gross might have been playing some safety last week. I got to verify that. Anyway, Russo, deep touch. That's a touchdown. McDonald. Cade McDonald's the guy that played high school ball with Jaden Reed and Peyton Thorne. So ironically, you've got Russo throwing to Peyton Thorne's former high school teammate. That's touchdown. That's touchdown. Nice grab. Tyler Hunt looking even a little thicker this year. Courtney Hawkins. I think that's Hawkins with his receivers. All right, here comes Russo. Going deep, and again, coverage bust. Trey Mosley. Nobody else in the picture. Too easy, right? 13, people ask me who 13 is. 13, that wide receiver right there, Sebastian Brown, redshirt freshman, wide receiver, 6'3", 190 from Detroit Cass Tech. I think he shows up on one of these other ones in a moment. All right, there's number 9. Look at the arms on that dude. That's Kenneth Walker. Here's Trey Mosley again. All right, so 13 right there is Sebastian Brown. Now on this one, which one is this? I was looking it up. Anyway, I was trying to find out. Okay, Eli Collins touchdown run, the first scrimmage, 1 yard touchdown run, inside zone, under center. Is this the one with under center? No, they're not under center. The one we saw previously had Duplain, Curry, Jarvis, Tyler Hunt. Thorne was quarterback. Reed and Gissinger. We already looked at that one. The Russo touchdown, Cade McDonald with a one-handed grab. On that play, you had C-Mac at center, Duplain at left guard. You had Ian Stewart at tight end. You had Tyler Hunt at tight end. There was a 2 tight end set. On defense for that play, you had Angelo Gross. Spencer Rowland was out there, the transfer from defensive back from Saranac originally. He's from Wheaton College, transfer from Illinois, 6'1", 185. Ben Hearney's been struggling a little bit, but he's out there. He was out there with Xavier Henderson, Noah Harvey, Halliday, and Gross. So he's struggling a little bit, but he was out there with the ones, getting a shot at it. The third clip, the deep pass to Mosley. You had Arcuri, Duplain, Samac at center. You had Matt Carrick out there at guard. Lockett was on the field as wide receiver along with Cade McDonald making that pass. On defense, you had Drew Jordan at defensive end. At defensive tackle, Simeon Barrow was out there. At linebacker, Devin Hightower was out there. Defensive end, Jack Camper. So that's a second string defense with Barrow, Hightower, Camper, and Jordan with the 2s. I would surmise from that. The outdoor clips, you got Sebastian Brown there as the wide receiver. Donovan Eaglin is number 32. We'll see him in a moment. But this is Walker. See, this is what they're releasing on this play. You see the handoff, but then they're going to clip straight to the touchdown because they're not going to want you to see exactly what the blocking scheme was. So there is some trying to go against the espionage there a little bit. Sebastian Brown over there on the right of your screen at the left wide receiver blocking. But there is Walker going into the end zone. And Cal Halliday is on the field, 27. Cal Halliday is a true freshman last year. Here's 27 right there. He traveled a little bit. I think he traveled to every game. Emmanuel Flowers also out there as a safety. Who's 36? 36 is Terrell Williams. That is a walk-on redshirt sophomore from Detroit, Cranbrook. So that's kind of so you got Halliday out there with some second-string type of guys. But anyway, again, I'm sorry if I'm boring you with this. And right there, number 80, Ian Stewart is saying, if you've seen the film, he's saying number 9's a problem. Number 9's a problem. Number 9 is Kenneth Walker, impressing his teammates. 76 at left tackle, A.J. Arcuri. Arcuri he's a guy that I liked, and I told you 2 springs ago that he was a guy more than anyone else that I thought took a jump. I'm like, he looks the part. This is before he ever played a game the next fall, because he'd had injuries and so forth. The next fall, I thought he was a starter type of guy. Got injured early in the year, but ended up starting midway through the year. Then last year, coming along a little bit more. The pass protection piece has come along more quickly for Arcuri, and now the run blocking is catching up, and you can see he's a mature man-sized dude, and some scouts are going to be looking at him. All right, you got Thorne here. Someone makes a play. We're not really sure what happened. All right, now here is Eaglin. That's why I wanted to get into this film. Someone asked about Eaglin on the questions a minute ago. This dude looks, I know it's slow motion, but he's a little bit of a specimen. And I've heard that he plays like it. 5'11", 230, redshirt freshman from Manville High School in Texas, which is a powerhouse. Now back there chasing him is Chris Mayfield, number 30. He's a defensive tackle, 6'2", 295. Mayfield carrying a lot of weight in his legs. It doesn't look like he's got the upper body of a defensive tackle, but sometimes that works. I don't know. But anyway, Eaglin, we're not going to see much of him, but this is the first we've seen of him. He's been on campus for a year and a half, and there he is. And yes, it is a crowded running back backfield, but from my understanding, he belongs. See if he can remain here. Now, this is the one I was talking about on the message board the other day. If you watch it quickly, you can't really see who it was, but this was Cal Halliday coming in. Halliday, you see him getting low, leaning into it, just outside that Sparty logo right there, getting low, getting ready to hit the running back, Kenneth Walker, who's a proven, sturdy, physical running back. I don't see any yard markers on the other side of the field, so I can't really see if this is like a 3rd and 1 situation. But it's 11 on 11, and Halliday getting low pad level, contact, form tackle, driving him back. It's Cal Halliday with a play right there, and the wrap at the end. And Beasley right there, excited about Halliday making that play. So, Halliday. All right, here is Hampton Faye. out route to Sebastian Brown. Sebastian Brown looking like a college receiver. All right, Hampton Fay, some of you guys that are quarterback gurus like Nils, Amy, and Detroit Spartan, you might be more equipped to break down some of the technique here, but it's kind of flying open like a young Connor Cook here a little bit, but makes it work. 33 right there is Kendall Brooks, the transfer from North Greenville University, from Swansea, South Carolina, 6 feet 200. He's been playing some nickel, playing in that slot area, Tucker said earlier this week. Would not be surprised if he finds his way to a big role this year. I'm not saying he's going to be great, but they need defensive backs, and Kendall Brooks looking like has the ability to help. Peyton Thorne, body language. Good. Zone read, keeping it. Touchdown. All right, on that. Now, there is Eaglin right there. Does that look like a man who's enjoying college? I would say so. All right, on that fifth clip with Hampton Fay that you saw on that pass, just running down some of the other people that you saw. Well, let's go back one more prior to that. The one with Cal Halliday's good physical form tackle versus Kenneth Walker. Also on the field, you had Cole DeMarzo at linebacker on that one. Number 25 redshirt freshman from Hilton Head, South Carolina. Tate Halleck was out there also. Jalen Hunt, a defensive tackle. Jacob Panishuk, a defensive end. Jeff Pietrowski, defensive end. So that's like some first string talent out there. Defensive line it is when you're looking at Panishuk, Hunt, Pietrowski. Those are first string guys. Halliday is kind of a first string guy. Halleck, not so much. DeMarzo, not so much. But they're getting a look because they are short on first string type of back seven guys. Also in the back seven, Emmanuel Flowers at safety. He got on the field for a sprinkling of plays last year, which surprised me a little bit because he had a lot of trouble getting on the field during the D'Antonio regime, to a point where I thought that would be a guy that was just not going to make it. Then boom, he's like a deep third string guy without much of a chance. Trying wide receiver, trying corner, trying wide receiver, trying corner, not working. New coaches, and he gets some traction. Terrell Williams, the sophomore walk-on, was also out there. So it seems like he had more first-stringer guys in the defensive end. I don't know if they mix and matched the position groups on that or not, but that's an interesting mix on defense. The next clip, that one where Hampton Fay was making that completion to the walk-on wide receiver from Detroit. See, I've forgotten his name already. Sebastian Brown. On that one, left tackle, he had Dan Van Opstal, who was a walk-on, who was quietly the second-string left tackle last year. It wasn't Mustafa Khalifa, who never dressed, never traveled. Van Opstal was the second-string left tackle all season. And our Curry stayed healthy all year, so we never, fortunately for Michigan State, we never found out what Michigan State would have done at left tackle if our Curry had gotten dinged up. Van Opstal out there for that play. Dallas Fincher out there also. He traveled last year as a true freshman, kid from Grand Rapids. Trey Mosley out there. Jazz Watts out there as a wide receiver. Jazz Watts is a guy as a walk-on receiver. And he's a Belleville or Oak Park guy. I can't remember. But Watts is a guy that when I see him in practice and I see him in the green-white game, he looks like a Big Ten receiver. Looks like a scholarship guy. Has never quite broken into the playing group, but he's a solid depth guy. And on defense, he had Kendall Brooks. We saw him. And also Zach Denha, number 32, the walk-on, that just out there playing on the string. I don't want to say anything bad about him. Maybe he'll end up on special teams someday. But I suspect they're going to be going over his head with some of the guys coming in. On that sixth clip, the zone read, Peyton Thorne touchdown, fakes it to Hayward, takes it in. On that one, tight end, you had Gissinger out there. The right tackle was Jarvis. Now let's rewind that a little bit. Do we see Gissinger out here? I mean, I went over this. I've got these notes because I went over this like fine-toothed comb, just reading jerseys to see who was on the field. Like right there, 37. Who's 37? 37 is Devin Hightower. 5'11", 225, redshirt freshman. Twinsburg, Ohio. Akron-Hoban High School. Gissinger is out here somewhere. There he is, 81. That's news. I'm not saying they need tight ends. I don't know where he was last year, but he's still in the program, and he's on the field for that play. And he was on the field for a couple of plays. Eaglin, happy. Peyton Thorne, happy. Body language. Thorne, personality-wise, he reminds me of Bill Burke. Now, Burke was kind of quiet. but we're starting to see Thorne open up with some smiles more. Burke was more reserved. He didn't hand out smiles a lot, but Thorne, as a freshman and redshirt freshman, reminded me of Bill Burke. Now you're seeing him blossom a little bit more. Maybe he's got a little more personality than Bill Burke. Bill, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. You got plenty of personality. I'm not saying anything bad about you. All right, now you have Hampton Fay. This is like a 60-yard touchdown keeper. Now, of course, this doesn't say much about the defense and their speed or their pursuit ability. But Hampton Fay, hurdler in track, you saw him if you watched his junior film and senior film. He had 1 or 2 plays where he tucked it and ran like a horse. Well, this is one of those cases. All right, he's taking off. Speed, deceptive speed, and gone. Now, the way Michigan State cut it up, they didn't let you see the whole thing. But it's the same play because if you notice, you've got Mel Tucker back there beginning to run. See him back there with the play sheet in his left hand? He's already on a trot. So when they break to the other camera, like right now, we don't know if someone's going to catch him or not. Number 8 on defense is Simeon Barrow, defensive tackle, 6'2", 280 redshirt freshman from Grovetown, Georgia. All right, so they switch to the other camera, and there's Mel Tucker continuing to run, and you see Hampton Fay down there, and it's looking like a touchdown. Red flag goes up. I'm not sure what that means. But anyway, the guy went the distance. Hampton Fay. He's got that component to his game as far as that, and that's a 60-yard scramble. On that one, you've got, I got this wrong earlier. Was talking about it on the message board last night. Went back and looked at it. Left tackle, you've got Jarrett Horst out there, second string left tackle. Damon Kaler, left guard. Samac out there, center. Does that mean he's second string center? I don't know. Maybe on that day, I'm not sure. You had Ohanba at right guard, a guy that was deep on the depth chart that I was a little concerned about his future there for a while. And then he showed up last year as part of the field goal team and got a little garbage time. So Ohanba is back in it. They like him. They think he's got a future. And right tackle was Spencer Brown on that play. You see 71 Ohanba in the background. All right, 71 is Ohanba. Now, you see a really big, you got Hayward out there. 72 is Kaler, who a guy from Indiana that I thought was kind of struggling on the way in. Didn't hear anything from him. And now we're seeing him on the practice field, so he's still in the program. So, last year at this time or even halfway through last season, I would have thought that Kaler would be a guy that was maybe struggling to stick. Well, he's out here trying to make it, so we shall see. 79, there's Horst on the ground, but Brown is 50-something there. You see him walking now, but you haven't seen Spencer Brown in a while. He's over there at right tackle. He's the guy that's bending his knees a little bit. It's good to be a knee bender. You want to be a knee bender. He's knee bending instead of waist bending, and he still is knee bending. So that was not bad. His weakness was always lateral movement. He needs to get better at that. Look forward to seeing him in the green-white game. All right, there's Gissinger saying this is going to be a touchdown to his teammate Gillison, and Gissinger's excited for him. Now, throwing this one is Thorne through that one, right? I would like to have a more elongated highlight of this. But this was shot by Michigan State and sent out by Michigan State, so we're going over it like it's the Zapruder film because, us, we don't have lives, right? So, Russo, Gillison open, Gillison, not bad coverage. I don't know if I think that might be Halleck in coverage. Well-placed ball. Finishes the touchdown. At right tackle, you've got Spencer Brown here. And I think there's, now 55 stunting inside is Zach Slade. I've not seen him. Injured last year. Jacob Slade's brother. They're twins. They're not identical size, but when they were in high school at the T-shirt camps, I could never tell them apart. Left defensive end right here is Zach Slade. He's going to stunt inside. He looks like he moves okay. All right, so Spencer Brown at right tackle has to filter that out and pick up the defensive tackle. So watch Spencer Brown. Lateral movement is not bad. Reacts back inside. Just a brief clip, but hey, Spencer Brown, right tackle, second string. He's a redshirt freshman now. Not bad. There's Mr. Mel Tucker. Getting it going. So that's the name of that tune. So that's film. It's April. We got a week till the green-white game. You guys haven't seen Michigan State football since December. Something to look at there. Looking forward to hopefully getting some film from the second scrimmage sometime this week. We appreciate anything we get from Michigan State. They're trying to, and I think they're very forward-thinking and trying to get people thinking about football. You know, they're not down in a cave in a submarine hiding from everybody. All right. Question number 4. Macklin JB from Rochester, Michigan says, out of Jarrett Horst, Kenneth Walker, Anthony Russo, Drew Jordan, Kendall Brooks, the transfers that are already on the team, who do you believe will start for Michigan State out of those guys? I think Russo, I'd give him a 60% chance. I think Thorne is doing well, but I think Russo, they brought him in to start, I think. I think Thorne's doing well, but I'd say Russo. Horst, I'd only put him at about 50% right now. He's on the second string right now, and he's learning. I think, like a lot of people, they would like to have Horst start at tackle and move Jarvis inside. But if Horst is not as good as Jarvis, then Jarvis will start and stay at tackle. I don't think that's ideal. Would it be better if Horst were coming in right now and just nailing that starting job right now? Yes, that would be better, but that's not the case now. We're not telling fairy tales here. We are telling it based on what we see. Drew Jordan, transfer defensive end from Duke. Would he start over Panashuk and Beasley? I'm not so sure about that. I think Beasley's solid. I think Panashuk is better than he was last year. Last year he was coming off a bout with COVID. He lost a lot of weight. Never quite got all of his horsepower back. That's a guy that he was the leader in returning sacks the year before. What do you have, like 6 or 7 sacks as a junior? So he's back now. Now, if it's last year's version of Panashuk, you would hope that Jordan would be better. But I don't think it's going to be last year's version of Panashuk. I think you're going to see the best Panashuk that we've seen out of that particular Panashuk thus far. So Jordan's going to be solid, but I don't know if he's going to be starting. I don't know. I think there's competition there, and that's good. I don't think the coaches know who's going to be starting at defensive end. So Drew Jordan, percentage starter, I don't know. I'd put him at 50% also. Kendall Brooks, same thing, 50%. Nickel, he's getting some look there. There'll be other players coming in that join the team this summer, and I'm hearing him doing a pretty solid job right now. He's got to earn some more trust. Would not surprise me if Kendall Brooks becomes a starter. So who's the most likely? I guess I fudged on a lot of those and said wouldn't be surprised on this guy, wouldn't be surprised on that guy. I guess, and I like Peyton Thorne, but I think Russo might be the one that's up at 60%. Those other guys, Russo and Brooks, I think might be the best shots right now. Now, the other question, he says, how many more starters do you see in the transfers that have committed but have not enrolled yet? So transfers that have committed but haven't gotten here yet. That's guys like Tank Brown and Ben Van Summeren and Corey, what's the guy's name, from Arizona. Okay, out of those guys, I think one of the corners is going to start. Is it going to be Lowry, the kid from Louisville, or Kari Crump from Arizona? Not sure about Crump. Chester Kimbrough from Florida. He's a second stringer that's got some playing time. I suspect Kimbrough is going to have the best shot to start among those guys. Van Summeren's going to be right in there, and they need help at linebacker. He's going to get playing time. Would he start ahead of Noah Harvey or Chase Klein? Maybe. There's slightly different types of players. But Van Summeren can do some things, especially in the red zone short yardage. Tank Brown, the offensive line defensive end from Minnesota. Talent, but he's got a few things to prove to get situated. Those guys. So, but now you throw in Malik Carr today. Things happen quickly, don't they? And Fitzpatrick, I don't think those guys start right away. They'll be in the talent pool. Let me go over here to some questions. I've been remiss by not giving more attention over here to the comments section. What are we doing here? I kind of lost my place. Been going for an hour 20. Let's see. I don't know. What's today? Thursday? Tomorrow's Friday. I'm wondering if we should just cut this off and start another one tomorrow. We got JJ Huddle 79 says, "What's up, Maggers? Glad you're back, Comp. Good to be back." Sam Whitkey says, "Missed this." Good, Sam. Missed you too. Old Tuck says, "The bell cow is here, but you're late, Old Tuck. You weren't in the starting 5. But glad you're here." Nick Harrington says, "All this transfer noise, but have not brought any offensive linemen. That because we're all set?" Well, transfer. Now, Jarrett Horst is a transfer. Brought him in as a tackle. All set at offensive linemen. They're still trying to figure out who who the best 5 are. I've not heard much scuttlebutt about adding another offensive line transfer. I've not heard that. But Mel Tucker says that they've got one of their staff members is on the transfer portal and presses the refresh button every 30 minutes. So from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. or around that time frame, someone is hitting refresh and checking the portal. Michigan State, so they're looking. So if the right offensive lineman arose in the portal and they do background and look at a guy, that could happen. I'm not sure they're setting out to look for one right now, but you said there's no offensive linemen that are transfers. That's incorrect. Jarrett Horst is one of them. Angelo Gross Enthusiast says, oh my, the time it has been. I don't know what that means. Matthew Bobe says, which transfer early enrollee has made the biggest impression so far? Transfer early enrollee. You know, Kendall Brooks is in there. Kendall Brooks is in there. Well, Kenneth Walker. Did I mention Kenneth Walker? You know, I just like skimmed over him. On that question earlier, the question was, out of Horst, Walker, Russo, who do you believe will start for Michigan State? I'm going to go Russo. I'm going to go Kenneth Walker. You know, starting at running back, you might be second string, but end up getting starter carries and repetitions before the game is over. I completely forgot about Kenneth Walker. He's the obvious one. So Kenneth Walker would be the one, if I can rewind back to that one. So Kenneth Walker's looking good. He's what they thought they were. He's what they thought he was. JJ Huddle 79 says, Comp, would love to see your thoughts on Tucker's work in the portal. What are you most excited about? Excited? You know, Walker. You know, when they got Walker, I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. But then, been hearing good things about him and seeing some film. I'm a little bit more bullish on him than maybe I was earlier. And it's not that I was anti-Walker. I was just like, okay, whatever. But I think he's more than an okay, whatever guy. And Russo, when I first heard that, I was like, oh, really? Okay. The more I've looked into that and seen him, the way he carries himself and so forth, that pumps a little more oxygen of intrigue into the season as well. So I'd say those guys. Now, they're not done yet. Rob South says, hearing anything about what Imani will do, Jim? Imani Bates? No. I think Michigan State is open-minded about it, but Michigan State is stepping toward next season as if they're not going to have him. Is it that they don't want him? No, they'd like to have him, but they're not anchoring everything on that. They'll make it work if he's available, but I don't know. I don't know about that one. Old Tuck says, from Ludington, Michigan, he says, we are recruiting big wide receiver, 6'2 plus, 200 pounds. Is that a change in recruiting at that position? Mark D'Antonio is bringing in more 6', 180-pound guys. They like size. They like size at defensive end. They like size at linebacker. They like size at safety. They like size at receiver. Now, they will bring in some, they're not going to bring in and have nothing but 6'4" in the wide receiver room. I've made this comment before that Nick Saban has said in the past that when he recruits a wide receiver room, or he likes to have a basketball team at wide receiver when he takes the field on Saturday. He likes to have a big man, a point guard guy, a couple of wings, and then like a stretch 4 type of guy in terms of athletes. I'm not talking a 6'11" guy, but, you know, like an AAU basketball team type of guy. So 6'4", they have gotten some more 6'4" guys. And that's good. There was a time where the wide receivers were not that big. Like last year, before Morgan got on the field at the end of the year, you know, you had Naylor out there and Reed and, you know, Ricky White, some of those guys, and they didn't have that Felton Davis type of big guy, right? So now they've kind of overcorrected on that, and that's interesting. That is interesting. Don Strait, thanks to you again. Old Tuck says, Old Tuck from Mason County, Michigan now. Mason County Central. He says, is Carr a Marcus Waters type of guy, or more like Freddie Smith or Dog Alexander? Marcus Waters is interesting. Marcus Waters was a little more bigger bones, but this guy's big boned too. Fred Smith coming in from Detroit was a little bit sleepy. They moved him to tight end. Didn't really want to do it. Didn't want to be fullback. Pretty soon he was gone. Dog Alexander, you're talking about Aaron Alexander. He's more muscular than Aaron Alexander, more sudden as an athlete, more athletic. He's He's somewhere between like a Felton Davis, Matt Trannon, Trayvon Morgan type of guy. Not as tall as those guys, but he's got that muscle to him. Now, Trayvon Morgan's the biggest wide receiver I've ever seen, and Trannon was a freakazoid at 6'6.5" or whatever he was. So this guy, I think, has got a little more agility than Trannon. Trannon was a little stiff. He was good, but just kind of stiff. Trannon was a great basketball prospect early in his career, 9th grader, 10th grader. Then he kind of flatlined as a basketball prospect. Carr, I think he's a better route runner than Trannon was. And so Carr has come up in a different era. You know, he's coming up in the era of off-season 7-on-7 football. Trannon did not begin specializing in football till his senior year in high school. Football was kind of an afterthought for him. He was advised to look into football. People around him thought he had a better chance to be a pro in football than basketball. I thought that was a short-sighted approach. He's a pretty good football player. But for him personally, when people in your camp or your concentric circle tell you, man, you got to look into football, you're more of a football player if you want to be a pro. Well, maybe you got a better chance to make the NFL than the NBA, but the NBA is not the only place you can play pro basketball, people, right? You can go over to Europe and make nice money. And if Trannon, I hear he's doing pretty well in Arizona, doing some things, but if Trannon had focused on basketball instead of football, he might not have made the NBA, but he's the type of guy that could have done nicely well in Europe. I mean, Aloysius Anaganye is still playing. You know, you can make nice money over there. So the people that told him that it was NBA or bust, I don't know. Worked out well. He was a pretty good receiver at Michigan State. Whatever. I wish him well. I liked Matt Trannon. Jameson Steffel says, first time watching it live. Comp, you're the man. Thank you. JMA on the board. Jameson from Cincinnati. Thanks, man. He says, how was Carr able to work it out with MSU before entering the portal? I'm not sure the specifics on that. And technically, they're not allowed to talk to coaches before they're in the portal. So there are family members, and I'm not talking about Dwayne Stevens, but there are family members that have played at Michigan State football in the past. That, I don't know this for a fact, but he could have talked to them. And those guys, one guy is a former teammate of someone who's currently on the Michigan State staff. So you can kind of do it that way. And Michigan State's not tampering. They might just hear about it. Hey, would you be interested if Carr enters the portal? Yes, then it's a go. I don't know that that's what it was for a fact, but I have it from good sources, and I don't think the people I was talking to at Michigan State basketball, I don't think they were snow jobbing me or BSing me. I really don't think Michigan State basketball was much aware of this. And so it was a back channel football thing, but you're asking how did it work out? So Michigan State can't tamper until he's in the portal. But can feelers go out? Yes. And I think that's what happened. Very good chance that's what happened. And if you know some of the people, you can connect the dots and figure. I'm not saying you can figure it out, because there's former players that weren't really like high-level, known, famous players. So it's no one you would guess. But with Malik Carr being from the Detroit area, there's family and stuff. Mr. Bowman says, how good of a basketball player is Carr? I just went over that. Mr. Bowman says, Des brother, Fitzpatrick. Ronnie says, Comp, I'm pumped. You and SpartanMag Live are back. Missed you. Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate that. Alaska Stoneworks. Brett Dodson says, good to hear your voice again, Comp. Are you up in Alaska for real, Brett Dodson? Good to see you, man. Mr. Bowman says, oh, he's from Oak Park. Cool. That is cool, right? Mr. Bowman says, Antonio Gates played basketball at Kent State. Now we're just throwing out general, just facts, factoids. All right, we can do that. Angelo Gross Enthusiast says, how is Duffy's recruitment looking? I just went over that earlier. If you're joining us live and you missed it, you can hear the replay again whenever you want. Dakota Vandentorn says, do you listen to Valenti? I do when I'm driving through Detroit. Didn't do it this summer much because didn't drive through Detroit much. A lot of times I'll drive through Detroit en route to the Ambassador Bridge to go over to Canada and snoop around in there during the weekends in the summer. My wife's Canadian, if you didn't know that. She doesn't live over there, but we still go over there a lot. Anyway, and one of my favorite things to do, usually we're driving on a weekday in the afternoon, and I'll catch Valenti, and I'll enjoy it. I knew Mike when he was a student at Michigan State, knew him well, really liked him. We had a lot of fun together. in the studio over the Mad Dog Show and other places. I would sit in for Earl Robinson over at WKAR once in a while on AM 870. And a couple of times, when I would do a show, I'd always wanted to have a sidekick with me. Because I was never completely comfortable doing it by myself like some of those people do. Can't handle it, barely can handle this. So I'd want a guy that I could talk to in case we didn't get phone calls, so we could just talk about things. And I'd bring Valeni in. He was a student at Michigan State at the time. And he was good. He had a lot of talent. When he was 20, he sounded like he was 40. He had that New York thing going on, and he was a worker. He had that great memory also. He could sit down and memorize the starting lineup for, every college football team in the country. That made for some good radio here and there. And as you've heard him since then, he's a funny guy, hilarious, very talented broadcaster, an entertainer, as he likes to say. And I'm really proud of him. When he had the show here in Lansing and he was applying for the job in Detroit, I talked to him a little bit behind the scenes and talked about some things. And I'm pretty proud to say that I gave him some pretty good advice about sports fans in Detroit. I'm not going to divulge what all those were, but just some things to remember and some things to curtail. Some things that were part of his persona. I don't want to say shtick, but things that were part of his delivery in Lansing. I said, people in Detroit, they won't understand that part of it, about teams and things like that. So I don't know if you remember that or not, but I do. We interviewed him for Spartan Magazine probably 6 or 7 years ago. Did a Q&A with him right when his show was really getting red hot in Detroit. I asked him, hey, can we do a Q&A? And he said something that I was pretty proud of. He said, Jim, man, you really you helped me out, gave me a lot of good advice back then. I'll do anything you want, which I was happy to hear. Now, he and we had some disagreements on some things, and it was kind of funny. If you saw the movie Moonstruck, we kind of went at it a couple times, and DeMarco told us to shut up. And me and Valeni were arguing about Bobby Williams or Morris Watts or something. In retrospect, I think Valeni was right. But at the time, I was defending my points, and I was younger and a little bit more caffeinated back then. So it was DeMarco, Valeni, and Comparoni in a booth in Lansing, yelling at each other. 3 Italian guys. It was pretty stupid. But no, he's a talented broadcaster. I'm not surprised how well he's done because he's a worker. And I know he's really embraced the Detroit area. He likes it there, and that's cool. That's great. I'm glad he's doing well. Don't always agree with him, but that's okay. I thought he was spot on with his commentary about the ESPN thing when the Mark D'Antonio thing was going down. I disagree with him about some other things, but like I said, sometimes I disagree with him, and it turns out that he was right. So, and that's why I always am. If I disagree with you, I'm not going to belittle your opinion. Maybe I would have 20 years ago if I was in a room with DeMarco and Valeni. But if I feel strongly about something and you do too, I'm not going to dismiss your opinion. And I'll say that sometimes. I'll say, you might be right. I disagree, but you might end up proving to be right. That's the way I approach disagreements. But yeah, I listen to Valeni. I don't listen to him like every day right now. Like I don't quite get 97.1 the ticket through the airwaves of my car here. There'll be times if something big is happening, I might get it on the laptop on my internet or something. But usually what I listen to, I'll listen to Stout in the morning to see what they're talking about as I get going. And then I'll tune in Neuheisel and those guys. Because really, Neuheisel and who's got the morning show on Sirius Satellite? The dude, the quarterback, McElroy from Alabama. McElroy, and I don't know who he's got on these days with him. But those guys, former players, former coaches, talking about college football, I find it entertaining, but it's information that I need. I need to know what people are talking about nationwide college football stuff. It's part of my cram time, just to be aware of what's going on. During basketball season, I listen to Seth Greenberg and Dockich for sure. Their podcast is good. Let me know what's going on nationally with basketball. The CBS podcast with Norlander and Parrish, I like those guys as writers, and it's fun to hear them. They're talented and entertaining podcasters and broadcasters, but I think their subject matter sometimes is too much analytics oriented about, well, this team is rated whatever on KenPom. They talk about KenPom all the time, whereas Greenberg and Dockich are talking about players and schemes and X's and O's, and I just like that. I think that's a lot better. But I listen to both of them, but mostly Greenberg and Dockich during the basketball season. And the other one I might listen to hear a little bit of the numbers, hear what they're talking about, but that's not a can't-miss thing. During the season, Dockich and Greenberg is can't-miss to me. So if I'm listening to those things, then I'm doing stuff, then I start to work, and I don't have time really to get to the radio stations, radio shows at that point, unfortunately. But if I'm driving, like on a Friday in the summer, and I'm not working, I'll turn on Valenti, and whether I agree with him or not, I'll just feel like, cool, I'm on vacation. And then I'll listen to Caputo when I'm in Canada. And I like Caputo. I know some of you guys, he rankles some of you guys. I've known him for a long time. And he's known me since I was 19 years old. So I like Caputo. And when Caputo's talking about hockey or the Tigers or Major League Baseball or the NHL, I'm going to listen because I like those things. And I don't know as much about those things because I don't cover that stuff. I'm a fan of those things. And Caputo knows those things. And I get a kick out of it. I know some of you don't like Caputo because he gives Michigan State a hard time sometimes, and you're welcome to that opinion. But I don't listen to Valenti. And Rob South says Valenti's gone downhill fast. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. I hear that he got into the politics a little bit this summer, which is I can understand. I stay away from that stuff because I'm not sure what to think on some things, and you guys don't care what I think about that. To me, political opinions are like bad breath. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to smell it. None of my business. Okay. You can go elsewhere for that, but I'm not going to sit here and pontificate and give you my bad breath on that. A lot of times I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. All right, Mr. Bowman says, hit the like button, guys. Blake Wagner says, welcome back. Gordon Tonona says, missed you, Comp. I'm just kidding, Blake. I'm sure you're Blake Wagner. Marlowe says, wasn't Maxwell a top 100? He might have been. Let me look that up right now. Andrew Maxwell was a highly rated recruit. Had some talent, never quite got it all calibrated. He might have been top 100 with some outlets, but Rivals.com had him as number 142. He was a 4-star, though. You were right. He might have been top 100 before he committed to Michigan State, right? But number 142, Maxwell was a 4-star. Good point, Marlowe. So I'll have to remind Noah of that one. But top 100, no. Matt Defoe says, how do you see running back snap count between Walker, Joyner, Simmons, Hayward, Collins? That's a great question. Snap count, you're talking, 65 offensive plays a game. I think Walker's going to get the most with Simmons and Collins in there. Hayward may be a third down guy. Man, it's hard to get 3 guys. 4 guys doesn't happen. Joyner, he supposedly has some slot back receiver ability. I don't know. I'm just not sure on Joyner. And he's not here yet. We'll see. Through no fault of his own, but it's crowded. And I'm not going to, I don't know, it's crowded. It's a crowded place to join. And he hasn't signed anything yet. I'm not saying I've heard anything. So don't run with that one on a conspiracy situation. But I think Walker and I think Simmons has a future. And I think Collins is back into his stride. But you remember Le'Veon Bell and Larry Caper and Rock Baker, there was room only for 2 of those guys to get carries. And that's back when Michigan State was running the ball more. It's going to be hard. Hayward played last year. I don't know. I think Walker gets 2/3 of them, and I think either Simmons or Collins gets 20%, and maybe somebody else gets 1 or 2 carries. It's like Walker, and then Simmons or Collins gets the 20% or 2 carries. Mr. Bowman says, one of the prettiest campuses in the country. Is campuses the plural of campus, or is it campi? Nick Harrington says, maybe I missed this, but I asked earlier, why aren't we going after offensive linemen in the portal? Is it because we're all set on the offensive line? No, not all set. Jared Horst is a transfer. Let me go back over here to the question, the mailbag. And I've been going for, we might have to move some of these. We might have to go twice this week. I wanted to say something about Crouch, though. Quavaris Crouch. I was going to mention him when somebody asked earlier about transfers and who's going to be part of the playing group. He's not committed yet, publicly. But I would include Crouch as a transfer who's going to be in the playing group. I know he's not committed yet, but Quavaris Crouch from the University of Tennessee, Charlotte, North Carolina. I'll skip down to question number 7 here from R. Kruger from Parts Unknown. He says, what's your thoughts about no Crouch? Is he enrolling in May? If not him, who would be the next linebacker? Assume they need at least one more. Noah Sprunger, our intern, spoke with Sam Greiner today. Sam Greiner was Crouch's coach in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Crouch is not doing any interviews, which is a good, mature way to handle things. Quavaris Crouch is the linebacker, 6'2", 235. He started 10 games for Tennessee this year, 57 tackles, had 11 tackles against Kentucky. I think that was the final game of the year. This guy's athletic enough. He was a 6.0 4-star recruit type of guy, top 100, number 70 player in the country when he went to Tennessee. Athletic enough that as a freshman at Tennessee, he played some running back in short yardage situations. He was more of a star ball carrier in high school than a linebacker. Went to Tennessee, did some good things, fired their coach, gets knocked loose. Michigan State in touch with him. Michigan State's in good shape. Quavaris Crouch, I don't want to scoop. I'll go ahead and do it now because it'll come out at some point. In this world, if you in the journalism world, if you hold on to something too long, it doesn't. Someone else will come out with it. So I'll attribute this to Noah Sprunger. He spoke with Coach Greiner down in Charlotte. He's got something going on that. Crouch has visited Michigan State. I don't think that's common knowledge. There were some rumors like 4 or 5 weeks ago that he was going to visit Michigan State, and then it looked like those rumors it didn't happen, didn't come to pass. I talked to some good sources. They said Crouch not visiting right now, but he wants to visit Michigan State before he makes a decision. Well, apparently he visited at some point, like a thief in the night. I guess it happened, according to his coach. And his old high school coach talks to Quavaris twice a week. And Crouch has visited Michigan State, and it's looking good. I think Michigan State's going to end up with him at some point in some fashion. To quote his high school coach, his coach says Michigan State is, quote, in the driver's seat right now. So that's as far as it's gone. I think Michigan State is expecting him to be part of it. They're expecting him to be the linebacker. I don't think Michigan State is. They may have some other linebackers on the back burner in case something falls through. But enrolling in May, I don't think you can enroll in May. You can enroll in June. I'm trying to think when summer semester starts. It's not technically a semester. But Crouch, I think Crouch is a linebacker. He's going to be talented. He'll be the most talented linebacker on the roster. He's not part of the roster right now, but in about 6 weeks, I think he will be. So I'm wondering, I'm going to go through some of these questions because there are some other good ones. AJ Hutt says, will yourself, Paul and Mubi, etc. do a live stream during the spring game? Would be epic if you guys broke down what you saw in real time. Thanks, AJ Hutt from Northville, Michigan. Thanks for saying that, but no, we won't be doing that. We won't be doing it live. I think there's rules against doing anything live from the press box. Could we do it while we watch TV on the Big Ten Network from our own homes? Yes, but we won't be doing it from there. More importantly, during the game, I'll be watching it with my own eyes. I'll need to try to get as much as I can live. I'll be working on that. So live stream might be fun, but the cost-benefit analysis, it wouldn't benefit as much as the cost of not watching it live and focusing on it and taking notes rather than trying to say what we're seeing. Because, if we talked about it live, I would be forced to try to attempt to talk in complete sentences and, say things that make comments that are cogent. That's not the way I am during a game. During a game when I'm up in the press box, I'm taking notes, and I'm with Konendijk, and I'll be like, who was the coverage on that one? Or I went to that and say, like, what did they run? Who blocked? Who's the blocker on that? What happened on that one? I'm usually asking Konendijk what happened near the ball, because I'm not watching the ball. I'm watching the coverage. And then something happens in the crowd. I'll be like, what happened? And Konendijk's like, they almost sacked him. And I'll watch the replay again. And then maybe hopefully another replay for a second time before the next player's run. So that's the way I want to watch a game live. And I don't want to let go of that because on TV you can't see what the coverages are. You get a better idea of coverage situations if you see it live. Sometimes in the green-white game, if they're running it live, they might miss a couple plays. I don't know. But live stream can't do it from the press box, first of all, legally. Secondly, for what I just mentioned. But thanks for asking. Fitzman from Beverly Hills, Michigan says, thanks for all you do. Thank you. He says, we're hearing a lot about Alu Ba, the offensive lineman from Bradenton IMG. But nothing about Tyler Booker from the same school. Do you know if we cooled on him? Seems strange being a legacy recruit and higher ranked. That is a great point. I've not thought about him in a while. But Tyler Booker is the son of Ulish Booker, who was a pretty good offensive tackle from back in like the early 2000s. And Tyler Booker's a top 100 offensive lineman at Bradenton IMG, and it's the schools he's in on that he's listening to are Florida, Georgia, Ohio State. Michigan State's not in there. I put out some questions today to some people that know Ulish to try to find out what's going on because I've not thought about him in a long time. That's a great question, but Michigan State's not been in on him. I'm not sure. And Fitz also says, it also seems like Michael Gravely, the true freshman, is repping at corner. Do you think he stays there or returns to safety when the new transfer corners come in May? Michael Gravely is 6 feet 210. I don't think he's a corner. That'd be a pretty big corner. That'd be a pretty heavy corner at 6 feet. I'm hearing he's doing some slot right now. I've not seen him play, but people that have watched practice say he's looking good. As a mid-year enrollee guy, Gravely is looking good. So that's good news. Kid from Cleveland Glenville. All right, Big Don from DeWitt. Thanks for your support earlier tonight. He says, hey, Jim, great to have you back from your well-deserved time off. Nobody comes close to serving their fan base as well as you do. And Paul and all your contributors. I agree. We have great contributors here. Appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that about Paul and the other guys. Thank you. He says, when you can work it in around Spartan questions and info, I have to hear your latest thoughts about Captain Khakis and the train wreck down the road. Don says, now the recruiting coordinator is heading to Mississippi State of all places. In spite of the fun practices we've heard about in Ann Arbor, it seems that players can't leave fast enough. That's what Don said from DeWitt. I guess Don said it well enough. I don't think I need to say anything. But the dude that left was Matt Dudek. What was the guy's name? I try not to be unprofessional about things in our particular line of work. But I heard that he was just... Matty Dudek is his name. And you look him up. If they ever do a movie on him, if the late, great Chris Farley were still alive, if they did a movie on Matty Dudek, the guy that just left Michigan for Mississippi State, Chris Farley would be the guy that would portray him. I don't know. I'm not here to make fun of the way people look. I'm hideous, but I've got a microphone right now, and Matty Dudek did some things in terms of tweeting at people in the media. This is not really a good idea. Matty Dudek going down to Mississippi State. I don't know if he's leaving because he was fired. I mean, on April 10th, he was still tweeting out things like, it's great to be a Michigan Wolverine. What a great day for a spring game in Ann Arbor with flags waving. And those tweets are still up, but now his avatar is Mississippi State. So was he told to leave, or did an opportunity come open, and he's like, man, I'm getting out of here before we all get fired next year? I don't know, but that guy, I've heard some unsavory things about him professionally, not as a person, just as an unprofessional. Growing up to do, and I still have a lot of growing up to do, even at my advanced age. But that clown, Chris Farley. Anyway, I think he did a decent job, with some P.T. Barnum aspects of what he was directed to do at that program for a while. But between Dudek and Harbaugh, those two guys, I mean, now it's like Farley, Moe, and Curley. Did I just say that? Anyway. There's a certain way that they want Michigan men to be. I'm not sure. I don't know where he went to school, but old school Michigan man is not quite what Matty Dudek was while he was in Ann Arbor. Anyway, Michigan State Pat said, what's the early word on quarterback? Seems like the staff is talking more positively about Thorne than last season. Good things on Russo, too. Sounds like a tight competition, and each brings a little something different to the table. MSU Pat, you just said it. You said it all. You're exactly right on all those things. They are saying more about Thorne, which is good. Russo's doing well. We're not getting stats or anything. We're seeing some highlights. They both are capable. Not a bad thing. Good competition. Question number 10, Spefton from East Lansing says, what's your take on Doug Wojcik and what changes might we expect with him on board? Not going to see any changes. I mean, Wojcik, behind the scenes, had a lot to do with X's and O's strategy, quality control, self-scout, a lot of those things. And Izzo really confides in him and respects him as a bench coach helper. Wojcik also was instrumental in mapping out the recruiting strategy the last couple of years. So does that bounce to someone else more? That's a good question. I don't know. Now that he's a full-time assistant, I suspect they might hire someone else to take over that role as recruiting coordinator. Wojcik was recruiting coordinator and somewhat of an analyst. And he was involved on the bench during games, talking to Izzo about things with a piece of paper in his hand, matchups and things, and in practice, orchestrating things. DJ Stevens as well. I got along well with Dane Fife. I'll miss him. Good guy. But if I were to be completely truthful, I think Wojcik was doing more. And Dane can call me up and rip on me on this if this is not true. But as I watched games and practices, I thought Wojcik was doing more assistant coaching than Dane Fife was for the last year and a half. And Dane Fife might go to Indiana and do real well, and I hope he does. That's just my observation as a journalist. So with Wojcik coming in, no, there's not going to be big changes. I mean, they just won 3 straight Big Ten titles. Went to a Final Four 2 years ago, might have went to one last year. So, I mean, if you're wanting, like, if you're hoping that someone's going to, like Perry Watson Jr. would come in and institute the dribble drive motion, I mean, that's not going to happen. All right, let's go back over here to the chat questions. We'll wrap up this particular edition of Spartan Mag Live. Appreciate everybody being here. It's been an interesting show. All right, we got Cade. Detroit Spartan says Cade. Detroit Spartan says, we are hearing good things about Eaglin back before last season. Okay. Cade, what was that about? I don't know what Cade was about. Matt Defoe says, Xavier looks like a young D. Rose. Oh, the new point guard? Well, I mean, Derrick Rose was taller. The thing about Derrick Rose is that who you're talking about, Xavier? Who are you talking about, Xavier? I need first names and last names. My brain has a lot of miles on it, and if you just give me a common name, even though Xavier's not a common name, but I need first and last names. Matt McLeod says, D. Rose, who are you talking about? Xavier? Okay. Matt McLeod says, no, not boring at all, Jim. I usually know the guy's numbers, but I don't know any of them now. When watching this earlier in the week, I was wondering who the players were. Okay. Clayton Fleetmeyer says, we need to go after Xavier Worthy. Oh, okay. That's the wide receiver that decommitted from Michigan. I guess Michigan State's coaches started following him, which was interesting and noteworthy, but I don't know. Detroit Spartan says, love our Curry. Detroit Spartan says, extremely raw but physically gifted. Detroit Spartan says, Hampton Fay, stock on the rise. Gordon Tenota says, Jalen Hunt is a beast. Detroit Spartan says, Thorne can be dangerous in the run game. Mr. Boneman says, okay, let's move on, comp. All right, that's where it was. This is the time of the show when I was looking at video, so Mr. Boneman was getting a little tired of it. And I appreciate that, and point well taken. Detroit Spartan says, great personality. Everyone loves, respects Peyton Thorne. Detroit Spartan says, Hampton Fay can move as well. Phenomenal athlete playing quarterback. I agree. Hampton Fay, with all his size, the part that was underrated with him was the athletic piece. That's interesting for the future for him. Noah came in, says, even folks. I think that might be Noah Sprunger. Gordon Tenona says, I agree. I met Thorne last year. Detroit Spartan says, Dino would have loved Hampton Fay. Hampton Fay, he's just, I've talked to him a few times. I mean, he's just all-American boy, central casting, some Hollywood in him, some Texas in him, loves life, active in the church, loves his teammates, loves Elvis, horses, in America too. As a player, junior film, straight line speed, a lot of unbridled athleticism, maybe sloppy here and there, that part of it reminded me of like a slightly taller junior version, 11th grade version of Connor Cook. Personality different. Connor Cook was a little more like Neil Peart. For those of you that know the drummer from Rush. Talented, but was his own dude. And don't get too close, which is good. I appreciate that. All right. I just compared a quarterback to a drummer. Time to end the show, I think. Detroit Spartan says, I'm talking personality-wise. Detroit Spartan says his father and grandfather are the same way, natural leaders, pure class, no BS. Talking about Hampton Fay, okay. Walker, transfer starter. Stock up, Walker. I agree with that. Walker's a surefire starter, yeah. That's the one that was the obvious one that I missed. Right now, none of the transfers are playing on the first unit. DJV1855 says, untrue. Pretty sure Walker is / first string. Pretty sure Russo is / first string. Detroit Spartan says there's not many, and that doesn't mean they're not good or going to contribute, but in my opinion, they were a bit overhyped. Okay? Fair opinion. You know, Drew Jordan, you know, you're hearing good things about him from the coaches. Big guy. I said here, as a pass rusher, he's okay. He's not a game changer as a pass rusher. He's big, and he should be able to play the point of attack. But the one game that I watched after he committed, I went back and watched the Duke North Carolina game. I think I watched like every snap of the first 3 quarters. I don't think I finished the game, but there were a couple plays in there where Drew Jordan was double teamed and moved off the line 2 yards. Like did not stand up to a double team well. And I was like, whoa. Going to see a lot of double teams in the Big Ten. Saw a lot of double teams against North Carolina, but you got to take on a double team. You can't cave a defensive end. So we'll see if that gets better. Ron Burton will be on it. We'll see. That's something I'll be watching in the green-white game. Does he take on a double team block? Who are the double team blockers? If it's Arcuri and Duplain, that's one thing. If it's Jarvis and Carrick, that's, in terms of double team run blocking, probably a little better. If it's Van Opstal and I don't want to Ohanba. If it's Van Opstal and Kaler on the double team block, that's different than a Jarvis Duplain double team block. So I want to see who the double team block is and how he stands up to it. That was one of the things in the spring of 2013, coming off a 500 season in 2012, heading into the Rose Bowl year, which we didn't know was going to be the Rose Bowl. I watched the green-white game closely. One of the questions was defensive tackle. Makaja Reynolds, what's he going to look like? Tyler Hoover had been bouncing around as a defensive end, had moved inside. Okay, they need him a defensive tackle. I watched Tyler Hoover every snap of the green-white game and again on tape, and there were 4 or 5 plays when he took on double-team blocks from starting offensive linemen. And he withstood the double-team block, stood it up, didn't give up any movement, and played it well. And in Spartan Magazine, I didn't make it a headline, but we do notes and bullet points. This is not a small detail. This is not a small deal, provided he stays healthy. In the green-white game against good double-team blocking, Tyler Hoover showed to me he's got a chance to be on the field at the 3 technique and not give up too much movement and not crash and not crack and not give up leaks. And you have to have that in defensive tackle. You have to be able to take on double team blocks, and be strong inside against the run first. If you don't have that, I always say the boat don't float. Apologize about my grammar, but point should be well taken. If you have your defensive tackles giving up movement, the boat don't float. Tyler Hoover, in the green-white game in April of 2013, showed that on defense, at that position of question, that the boat could float. And I thought that the boat would float. And that boat damn well did float in 2013. But needed that at defensive tackle, needed it from Hoover, and got it. And who was there playing strongest double team block on 4th and 1 when Kyler Ellsworth went over the top? Tyler Hoover. Thank you very much. All right, Detroit Spartan says Walker's for real. I'm not arguing that. MSU Hunter Spartan says, I guess we were wrong about the strength of the Pac-12 in hoops. Way better showing than the Big Ten. You're exactly right, MSU Hunter Spartan. Exactly right. And that, I remember I called up my friend Steve Finnemore after UCLA won their 2nd or 3rd game. And I have this conversation with him once in a while. Former basketball coach at East Lansing High School. A lot of you know who Finnemore is. And I'm like, I don't know how to read this stuff anymore. Because I watched those UCLA-Oregon games and UCLA-Oregon State games, and it was flag football compared to the Big Ten. And Oregon State went far, UCLA went far, and I was trying to figure out how... In other words, my construct of basketball was kind of turned inside out. Now, Purdue, I thought, was out of gas physically when they lost to North Texas. Ohio State, when they lost to whoever it was they lost to, I thought they were flickering a little bit. Loyola was good, but I thought Illinois had flickered a little bit. I do think that the Big Ten was so tough and so deep and so rugged through 20 games in a compressed schedule in a short amount of time from Christmas on. I do think that some Big Ten teams wore themselves the hell out. Not Michigan. Now, Michigan had that 21-day pause, which came when they were hot. But then they had a couple games, couple rusty games, then got it back, and that pause helped Michigan. And the team that won the national championship, they had a pause also. In a rugged league, I think it helped Baylor too. The rest of the Big 12, I think the Big 12 was good. I think the Big 10 was good. Those two conferences were rugged and competitive, and I think the Big 12 teams all beat themselves out and petered out early too. Big 10 teams, not great, but Ohio State was better than that. Purdue was better than that. Illinois was better than that. I think that the Big 10 basketball teams went in, and the coaches aren't going to say it, I don't think, because they'll sound like they're making excuses. But next year, I think the Big 10 will be fine. And in the years previous, the Big 10 was fine. I realize the Big 10 hasn't won a national championship since 2000, but winning a national championship is not the end-all, be-all litmus test. Because since 2000, there have been several programs that have played for the national championship. Michigan State has, once or twice, against North Carolina once. Michigan has twice. Indiana did once. Illinois did once. Wisconsin did once. So different programs have played for the national championship. Just because you don't win it doesn't mean the whole program sucks. Purdue should have won the national championship the year Virginia did. I think they were better than Michigan State. Michigan State almost won the national championship that year. We'll see next year and then the year after that. And if the Big Ten is good, like they usually are the next 2 years, then I will staunchly believe that in the year of 2021, that the Big Ten in the COVID year, in a tough schedule year, in a deep league, beat themselves up too much. I'm not saying that about Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State was that good. But those other teams I mentioned, Ohio State on defense against, was it Oral Roberts that beat them? Just could not move their feet. Anyway, but Michigan had the pause, and I think it helped them. Baylor had the pause, and I think it helped them. They did it at just the right time. Came back, had a couple games, lost in the conference tournament, got right, helped them. Baylor might have won and been great anyway. They were a great team. But if they hadn't had the pause, might they have had an Illinois type of game in the tournament? I don't know. Mr. Bowman says, Bates not coming. I don't disagree with that. Nick Harrington says, laughing out loud, okay, I stand corrected on the no offensive line transfer. Thanks, Comp. All right. I hear you, Nick. It's all right. Nick Harrington says, how many running backs do you think you will be off the roster next year? Hayward is gone. Then I expect another running back, such as maybe the running back in Lakeland, Florida, and at least 1 or 2 transfers, in my opinion. Your thoughts? How many running backs do you think will be off the roster next year? I don't know. They can't keep all of them, right? Because they want to sign at least 1 running back this year, and they're trying to do some elephant hunting at running back right now. I'm not good at counting scholarships and counting how many are left and how many at a certain position. People ask that a lot, but I don't pay much attention to that. Maybe I should, but I don't usually have a ready answer for those questions, and they don't really intrigue me that much. All right. Detroit Spartan says, don't ask, don't tell. Josh says, any word on fans at the spring game? I'm a student and would love to go. Josh, you're a student at Michigan State. Bless your heart, man. Good for you. And you're here, SpartanMag Live. All right, Josh, way to represent. And I feel bad for students right now. I don't know how long you've been at Michigan State, but for the last 14 months, Michigan State has not been Michigan State. I drive around there and look at it. And I think about some of the players, some of the athletes that still don't know the real Michigan State. Hopefully you've been at Michigan State long enough, or you still will be at Michigan State for years to come long enough so that you sufficiently know Michigan State. And there's different Michigan States. There's Michigan State in the dorms, which is silly fun, right? Just silly. Then there's Michigan State if you're living in an apartment or off campus or whatever for your junior year, your senior year, and your redshirt senior year, which is important. And that's a different Michigan State. Then you turn 21, or you get a fake ID, and then you can go and enjoy a Shark Bowl with my friend Crowley Sullivan. They don't have the Land Shark anymore. But anyway, that part of Michigan State's not around anymore. Now, I do see a little bit of Michigan State coming back in terms of the students. They're around. Winter, I don't know what was going on. Before winter hit, me and the wife and daughter went on a bike ride, went down into town in East Lansing, and it was Labor Day, and there was some beer pong being played despite the virus. There were some little gatherings of 20 here and 20 there and 20 there. Just a few of them, not a bunch, but there were a couple of them. So there's still some Michigan State going on. And I'm not saying that was good or bad. I'm not saying I condone that. I just noticed it, rode by, had a good time. But you, Josh, being a student, I hope that you get the full Michigan State both in the dorm and off campus. And thanks for chiming in. I just kind of went on a little tangent there. Sorry about that. He says, any word on fans going to the spring game? He says, I'm a student and I'd love to go. Tucker said earlier this week that they're looking into it. People at the administrative level, not his call. But I think it was positive that after Tucker said that, then Michigan State came out with a statement saying that, I can't remember what the statement was, but it sounded like the statement was that they're looking into it, which is good. I don't know the right thing to do, but after Tucker, I would have thought 4 days ago, I would have thought no chance, because there's an outbreak around here, as you know, and some people are reacting very aggressively about it or conservatively about it, which is kind of the same thing in this regard. And for instance, local high schools, there's a couple of them that are on pause right now. Okemos High School, spring sports on pause. East Lansing High School's on pause for 2 weeks. Now, Hazlitt is not on pause. Neither is Grand Ledge. Neither is it Holt? So there's differences of opinion there. But Michigan State is usually going to be in line with, Okemos, East Lansing, the current governor, and things like that. I'm not getting political or anything. I'm just talking about the way Michigan State would probably do things, operating on that side of things. So I'm thinking, and I don't mean that side, I mean like erring on the side of caution type of thing in this particular issue, in this particular situation. So I'm thinking that they're not going to have fans. I think they'll be family members of players and media, kind of like the basketball games. Detroit Spartan says, rumor is no fans, but that's not concrete as of yet. That's what Detroit Spartan says. He would know, and that's kind of in a long-winded way, that's kind of what I was saying. It sounds like Michigan State is still considering it, which sounds to me like there are people in the hierarchy that would like for Michigan State football to have a chance to open things up a little bit. And if you open things up to fans a little bit, you might be able to have some recruits in too. Did I say that? Would that be part of the decision-making process? If this were Tuscaloosa or Baton Rouge, it would be. I don't know. But yes, that was Dr. Sam Stanley behind Mel Tucker on the field at a recent practice. So, Michigan State trying to get all the oars and all the rope pulling in one direction. I think a lot of people are going in one direction right now. So, Emerald Diamond 3 says, driver's seat for Crouch. Me likey. Rob South. Noah, is that you? Is that Noah Sprunger? Like I said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to scoop Noah on the things that Noah told me today. But like I said, in journalism, sometimes you have to put it out there. And Noah's going to have something on that over the bunker here pretty soon. So that has to do with Crouch. He's got that face there. I don't know if Noah's upset with me for scooping him, but that's why I gave Noah credit. I don't think he's upset. He's a good kid, man. Really good kid. Smart, bright, industrious. But we had something this week I was talking to Noah about in terms of learning the journalism thing, that if you keep something under your hat too long, it'll pop somewhere else and you lose your scoop. It might just be a little scoop. It might not be controversial or like, should we come out with this or not? It might just be something small like that Crouch has visited campus. Noah uncovered that. It'll be in one of his stories at some point. But that's a little morsel of information that if we don't put it out, someone else will, and then Noah loses the scoop. I want Noah to have a scoop on that little factoid. And Michigan State being in the driver's seat, which is a newsy quote that Noah got from Crouch's high school coach. Rob South says, Hayward ain't going anywhere. He's a great leader to the young guys. Noah says, Michigan State missed his top 5 for what it's worth. Who are you talking about? Talking about Booker? I don't know who you're talking about. Detroit Spartan says, could do a stream that evening, break down the spring game film. Probably will do something like that. That'll be a Saturday night, April 24th. People will still be excited about the spring game a little bit. Maybe we'll do it on Sunday. I think we're going to get into a routine of Sunday SpartanMag Lives. Detroit Spartan says, Comp loves Harbaugh deep down. Clown show. Mr. Bowman says, wow, I just looked him up. He does look like Chris Farley. Mr. Bowman says, guys, did you hear that former Spartan assistant Stan Heath is new coach at Eastern? Yes, we knew about that. Yes, that is Noah Sprunger. Great to have you here, Noah. Thanks, man. And I set this up kind of late, and I don't have my usual mixer, and I didn't start this thing until 8:03. I promised 8 o'clock, and I was late. If I'd had more time to get the mixer together and then had the phone together, part of what I was planning to do was to have Noah on the show today. Noah doesn't know that, but as we were like T-minus 11 minutes till airtime, T-minus 9 minutes, T-minus, I'm like we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about Crouch. I got this question about Crouch. Noah just talked to Crouch's coach. It'd be perfect time to have Noah on the show as a guest, and I could ask him about it. And then it was T-minus 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, and I didn't have time to set up the mixer. I'm going microphone into the laptop rather than microphone into the mixer into the laptop, which sometimes leads to more things going wrong, like the hissing sound and other problems. In order to have Noah on the show as an audio guest, I would have needed to go through the mixer, which I didn't have time to do as we're getting into the countdown. So Noah, I was thinking about having you on tonight, and you didn't even know about it, specifically for that reason, so that you could talk about your scoop information rather than me passing it along. Anyway, that's the way it is. Gordon Tenona says, so was Thorne raised in a church? He has a t-shirt that says, God is great. I don't know. Good question. Peyton Fleetmeyer says, went to the same high school with Hamp. Alito, Texas. Peyton, you went to high school with Hampton, Faye? That's cool. Card Shark Chris says, Reverend Sheets at the Church of St. Mattress always has the best Sunday morning service. Card Shark Chris. Hey, Noah, you just texted something to me. Feel free to put that on here if you want to. Detroit Spartan. No. Elbow cough. I don't know. You guys are over my head now. You're probably making fun of me. I gotta read things carefully because someone will put a play on word where I'll say something that I don't know. Sometimes I'm like the teacher with chalk on his butt. You know what I mean? Remember back when they used to use chalkboards? You get that teacher that chalk on their butt? Josh says, I am a freshman and it is dead. Laughing out loud. We make do. All right, you're a freshman. All right. My advice would be stay in the dorms again for next year. It'll get better. To get the full dorm experience. I was in the dorm for 2 years. Kind of wished I'd stayed in as a deadbeat for a third year, Like my junior year, I was off campus, which was okay. I had a girlfriend in the dorms at the time, so I spent a lot of time in the dorms anyway, along with some other idiots that I knew there that were fun. But in retrospect, I could have stomached a third year in the dorms. And in your case, I don't even know what the dorms are like entirely right now. There might be such a difference between dorm life and off campus that maybe just go ahead and go off campus. But if back in my day, the dorms were, it was fun. It was a good time. So a third year in the dorm might be a good thing. It depends on your friends and what they want to do and where the action is going. But in your case, I would suggest the 5-year plan. I know that can be more expensive sometimes. With 3 in the dorms and 2 off campus. I don't know. Again, I don't know. Maybe the dorms won't be as fulfilling as they used to be. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask someone who's younger than I am. Wiggle Puppy says, howdy. Mr. Bowman says, poor Josh, you have no idea what you are missing out with the old MSU, with what the old MSU looked like. Yeah. Noah said, I appreciate it. Would have loved to have been on another time. Yeah, we'll do that. Matt DeFau says, my earlier comment was that Xavier Henderson looks like a young Derrick Rose in that practice video. Okay. Thanks. Short Spartan says, I made a comment about cooks and face personalities. Connor was raised in and around a bar in Ohio, and Faye was raised in and around a church in Texas. Very different personalities, backgrounds. Yeah. Different personalities for sure. MSU Hunter Spartan says, Izzo needs to find a big in the portal. Well, they just lost one in the portal because they've got too many bigs, I think. Because this year, I talked about it earlier in the year, they had 6 scholarship bigs, which is more than he's ever had. So now they're down to 5, right? So you have Bingham and Marble. Malik Hall is a stretch 4. Joey Hauser. Oh, am I forgetting somebody? Anyway, I don't know if there's room for that. Anyway, hey, we're going to wrap it up. Appreciate everybody for all the kind words and the support and the personal sponsorships. Appreciate all the people for participating. We have lovely parting gifts for all of you. And look forward to talking to you next time. Maybe, what day is today? Thursday? I don't know if we'll get to it back on Sunday. Maybe we will. We'll have one more before the green-white game. And then one coming out of the green-white game. And then we got some other fun things planned here at the SpartanMag.com YouTube channel. Make sure to go check out SpartanMag.com if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support, all the thumbs up, and the subscribers. Appreciate the subscribers at SpartanMag.com also. Noah Sprunger, appreciate the work you're doing a great job. Great addition to SpartanMag.com life. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the people out there. Friends that I know, friends that I've not met yet. Anyway, we'll see you next time. And take care of yourselves. Be good. Talk to you soon. SpartanMag.com.